are.
It's not any more complicated than I do love pumpkin.
And that's it.
Just like those chicks with their spice.
I was gonna say
lattes.
you're the
You can't fucking get them any other
you're the
time.
basic bitch.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we should be live. You got me? Can you hear me?
I got you.
You can hear me? Good.
I can hear
nice.
you.
Sounds good. Should be looking pretty good here too. I'm gonna turn my phone off.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's see. I just want to make sure. So for the listeners, I'm beta testing a live. I'm beta testing a live stream, so it's gonna be a little different tonight with the vibe, but it should be fine. It should be fun.
Feels special.
There we go. That should be good to go. That's my little monitor. Now I can see, just in case something crazy happens. All right, Daniel Koppy, dude. Thanks,
Hello.
Thanks for coming down, man. Thanks for doing this. I'm excited to have you here, bud.
I'm excited to be here.
We had
I'm excited
Alex.
about the pumpkin spread we got going on.
Yeah, dude, it's that time of year, and I like it, so we're going to drink some.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the biggest drinker, though. I mean, you do drink, but you're not a big drinker. Or are you?
So, I had a feeling that was going to be, for some reason, this is a good start. I had a feeling that was going to come up. And I think it's really funny. There's a lot of people over the years, not as much now, but before, there would be so many people that would know me for quite a while, and they would think I was straight edge.
Dude, you have that clean, responsible vibe, and that's not. I'm not shitting on you. I'm not making fun of you.
Oh no, not at all. Because I'm like the collected drinker, I guess. Because yeah, I'm definitely a drinker. I think it's just because more times than not, people would always see me at shows, or we'd see each other at shows, and I would typically never be drinking.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a show or if I was at a show, it's just more times than not, I just usually wouldn't be drinking. So a lot of people just had this idea for the longest time that I was.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's because one of those things. It's like I've seen you with a beer in your hand. I mean, we've hung out at parties and shit together. I mean, I've seen you drink, but it's kind of like what Eric and I talked about. Eric Kais. I had him on the podcast, and we talked about this. And I was in bands where we really embraced the party vibe because we knew if our fans drank a lot, the bars would make a lot of money and we would get invited back. And the whole thing was this. So we also adopted that image of being those partiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas guys like you and Eric and a few other cats were hyper vigilant about you didn't care about looking like you were partying and all that shit, right? We'd get off stage, dude, and just do shots. We'd try to get hammered as fast as fucking possible. You guys never did that. You guys got your shit off the stage. You did your job correctly, and so did we. But
I think that the funny thing is that more times than not, especially when you're on the road, that's how it would be. Business is done. Because I'm not playing metal. I've literally, and I can honestly count the amount of times I've touched a drum set drinking.
Shit.
And honestly, I can honestly say that up until, it'd be 3 years ago when I was doing session stuff and playing with Dead Bundy. Those were the only times I've ever drank before I played, and that was because that was a different kind of music. Playing fast metal, you just can't. You especially can't be a drummer.
Right.
You just can't. You're relying on your coordination and too many variables. But,
what do you define as drinking? So when you say can count the times on one hand that I've drank while playing drums, does that mean you drank enough to get a buzz, or you're saying just even one beer?
Really at all.
Okay.
I can honestly say that until I played with Dead Bundy, I never even practiced with drinking a beer ever. There'd be a couple times here and there where I'd sip on a beer with Alex.
Right.
But like 100%, 30 some odd years into my life. And yeah, the couple of years ago was the first times where I really ever touched a drink or a couple drinks. Sometimes it was more than a couple drinks with them because, like I said, with rock and roll, it's different.
Right.
There's there's definitely an element of looseness to rock and roll, and especially playing with them, there was no rehearsing. There was no consistent like schedule. It'd be like, we're gonna play a show in a couple weeks, because they had a residency at the 331, and we never practiced. It was just like, these are the songs we're gonna play.
Gotcha.
It would be very, very sporadic if we ever did get a practice in before any shows I did with them. So then it was like, for me, that's like the complete opposite of what I'm about. So it's like, oh shit, I better. I think I better have a drink or two to like loot, because I'm just like, I'm pretty tense. I'm a pretty tense drummer to begin with in a lot of ways. I think some ways it's gotten better over the years, but especially in those situations, I think it did help to loosen me up and just be like, oh, fuck it. If I fuck up, because I'm probably gonna, whatever.
Mm-hmm. So for people that don't know, we've already kind of talked about it. You play drums. You've been playing drums for a long time. You play drums currently for a band called Reaping Asmodeia with one of my good friends, Alex Kelly. You're one of the most respected drummers around that I know of, especially just in this scene, but in the entire state. When I talk about good drummers with other musicians, your name almost universally comes up as long as they're aware of metal. You know what I mean? Like there's 2 or 3 or 4 that I can think of off the top of my head that come up in every conversation. And I'm not one of them, right? It's you, Gensmer, Jen Dean, and Aaron Lonick. Those are the 4 I hear most common in every discussion, virtually every single discussion.
All very good drummers. And that's, I'm very, I am, and I like to stay as grounded as I can be. That's just the person I am. So when like hearing you say that, it's like it makes my hair stand up because cool. I'm always taken back by anyone that takes a moment to appreciate what I do with my art. Yeah. And it's a same. You're an artist, and you know how that is. So luckily, I'm just like a pretty humble person, and I still with the musician that I am and the person I am when I have something I'm passionate about. It's just, there's too much to learn where it's just, I don't know. It's like, oh, someone notices what I do. It's like, wow, like that's awesome.
When you say you're pretty humble, is that something that you've consciously worked on, or was there somebody in your life that kind of like made you humble?
No, I think it's just, I think it's just the person that I am. Obviously the background, the family life, the friends that I have, and I don't know, it's being involved in still in technical metal. It's like, just in general, there's so many great artists out there, there's so many amazing drummers, and it doesn't matter if you're the most renowned name in the industry, there's too much out there.
Mm-hmm.
You always have something you can be better at, and there's always something that somebody that might have, like if we're talking drummers, it's like there's people that have probably been playing for a year or two that can do something better than me and do something cooler than I can. It's just, it's too endless.
What do you mean do something better than you? So like, maybe this kid's just got a wicked left hand and he can fucking anything. He can blast completely perfectly with his left, where most of us have to switch hands and blast with our right in order to maintain that.
Exactly.
Just weird. But he may not even be a better drummer per se, but he's got stacks on you in at least 1 or 2 departments. Because that's how I feel with every musician I ever come across with. It's they're all better than me at something, if not everything, on that instrument. Because I play guitar and drums, and so like I'll play, like I used to play with Pat, right? Pat Ruland, another one of the most
really good drummer. Yeah.
I remember back in the day, he couldn't shuffle, and I still don't know if he can shuffle. So
it's the curse of the metal drummer.
Yep, that's what I was going to get at, right? So then
he could. It's just it's what you put your time into. There's a
Right.
million things. I mean,
Well, and
especially
do you
when you're a
even
metal
value
drummer.
that? Do you even value that as a skill set? You know, as the proverbial
Exactly.
musician, it's like, well, shuffling. Yeah, I understand that might be the highest level of drumming in some people's metric, but I'm not interested in that because I'm into hypothetically black metal, and
Well,
we're
it's
not
what
shuffling.
scope
right,
are we talking about?
right.
Yeah,
And same thing
it's-
with blast beating. Like a lot of us look at blasting like, oh my god, fucking that's like one of the hardest things to do. But then a blues drummer would be like, why would you ever do that? It's stupid. You know, so all of these things are
Yeah.
also subjective too when we weigh ourselves.
well, art is anything with. I mean,
And even talent.
really anything is, but I mean, especially art. It's so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you think is amazing and something that's your favorite or whatever. It's like that's personal. Like, and that's the thing about art is it's so very very subjective.
Right.
It's like, oh, this band sucks or this musician sucks. It's like, well, it's preference and it's just that's the way it is, and that's I don't know. As lame as that sounds, it's like the beauty in like art.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
not. It's not just a music thing. It's just anything.
So do you, because we were talking about the humble thing and, you know, just kind of staying with this, do you ever feel like you have imposter syndrome? Like when you get amongst musicians that you really respect or look up to, do you ever get that feeling like, man, I shouldn't be in this room. These guys are way above me.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, and I don't. I guess like I say that, and I think it's a double-edged sword because you have to have a certain level of confidence in anything you do, and that's. I know a lot. I know a lot of musicians that are amazing. That I think that's just something that a lot of artists struggle with.
Right.
Because you're always your own worst critic, and it's just you get so far away. It's like if you want something so badly, it's like you're always going to hold yourself to this unrealistic expectation, and if you ever get to whatever you're being unrealistic about, well, then it's something else, and
Right.
it's 15 other things. So yeah, I don't being around people that are talented, I think, is you got to kind of take that in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
It's motivating and it's scary. And
I got
know.
this phrase when I get around certain musicians, and you and Alex both on your respective instruments. Dan Knight is another one. Do you remember Dan Knight from B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know him, but I know the band.
Yeah. He's one
Yeah.
of those cats where I distinctly remember, and there's a lot of cats in this pocket I'm about to describe, but I call it encouraging or inspiring and discouraging all at the same time.
Mhm.
So like I'd go see B play live. I'd go see Coheed play live. Sometimes I come see you guys live when you guys are like fucking on and like everything's right. The sound guy's fucking on point. Like everything's perfect. It's like, and I'm saying this because I'm not even a super big, brutal death metal guy.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys even consider yourself death metal, but me being such a fucking moron all the time, you know what I mean? Everything that heavy just gets lumped into death metal. But
Well, yeah.
But it's one of those things where when you see certain musicians in their element and they get as close to a perfect show as they can that night, because we kind of talked about that beforehand,
Mhm.
like none of us
Yeah.
ever have a perfect show. But the goal is to get as close to a perfect show as we can tonight. And when you see somebody get close, man, that is both inspiring and discouraging if they're at the top of their game, because it's like, fuck, man, he made that shit look so easy. Like, I'll never be able to do that. But then at the same time, you're also like, I want to go home and play drums or guitar or
Mhm.
whatever it may be. I don't even remember where I was going with that originally, but
Well, I think that.
I was coming out of the imposter syndrome thing. That's what it is.
Well, and that's. I think as I've gotten older, I mean, I'm like a lot of. I'm not special. I'm like a lot of other musicians. I'm really, really hard on myself. And it's a good thing. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword, that line that you walk. It's like if you need to hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else. I'm still at a point, and with the way my fucking weird-ass brain works, it'll probably be this way till the day I die, where I'm going to always be chasing these expectations, like these things I want, and I want to get better at this, and I want to do more than I was doing this previous year. And, it's just like you want to keep excelling at your craft, where I've tried to take the good with the bad a little bit more than I used to.
Right.
And it's tough, but I mean, the mind is a powerful thing. I really do believe that if you're going to sit there and say you can't do something, or if you're going to be telling yourself that you're just going to stay in this pocket that you've been in, it's like, well, then what the fuck then that's what you're going to do.
Yep. 100%.
I mean, it's no different than your job or your music, whatever, your family, your relationships. If you're going to have this negative headspace that you're going to let yourself kind of hang in, well, then that's where you're going to stay.
So when you get frustrated as a musician, let's say you're trying to write a part or work on a technique or develop a new technique, right? Whether it's adding something to your toolbox or tightening something up or whatever, how do you get through the frustration? Like some guys, my best friend, he's a driller, meaning like he'll sit there for 6 hours and drill like he's in a military fucking situation and just nonstop, right? Me, I will blitz it as hard as I can at every tempo. So I'll slow it way down. I'll play it softly. I'll speed it up and see how fast I can play it, which is also, the faster you play, the softer you play. But then I have to walk away from the instrument and all music for sometimes like 20 minutes to a half hour. Sit down, close my eyes, sit in silence, and listen to it in my head and watch myself play drums. And then I can start to see where I fucked up and where I missed something. What do you do in spots like that when you get super frustrated or you run into a wall?
Especially with drums, and it could be said about, guitar or any instrument. In metal especially, and I'm just gonna keep cutting myself off, I guess. In any instrument, there's so much muscle mind coordination involved where, obviously drums are my main instrument, so I'm gonna have the most understanding of it, where if you don't understand how to do something slower, your brain and your body aren't gonna let you,
do it faster.
Yeah. So you have to let things develop. Sometimes you got to like sit there and hammer away at something and not be able to do it, and then come back the next day and, oh, well, this is a little easier. This feels a little bit different.
That happens to me too.
And that's the tough thing. I don't know. With me personally, still playing metal and playing more and more, it's like, usually people go the other way. It's like you play metal when you're younger and, you get out of it. It's very, very demanding, and I get the demands I want out of my drumming get more and more and more. So I mean, part of it that sucks is the physicality behind it, I guess, really.
Dude, and that was one thing, because you said something about you're really hard on yourself, right? And I've noticed from afar and through word of mouth, your work ethic is pretty notorious. I remember hearing from somebody back in the day, you had a full-time day job. You would get off from that job, you'd go to the gym, and then you'd come straight from the gym straight to rehearsal, and then you'd wake up the next day and do it all over again. This was 7 days a week.
Hasn't changed. It hasn't, like, the one thing that, like, I will, like, I'm not going to ever say that I can do this or that better, or I can, perform better. There's a lot of things, most of that you'll never hear out of my mouth. My work ethic, I don't have a problem saying, because it's like I'm like that idiot where I'll keep doing it and I'll keep doing it. Like that's just, and I mean, I guess that's why I've gotten to experience the things that I have. I guess that's why I've gotten to do and see the things that I have at this point in my life, because I mean, my life, obviously things tilt and this and that, but it's like I was at the gym this morning. I worked my day job all day today. I'm after this, I'll probably be down. I'm meeting up or talking with Alex and Steve tonight about some stuff, but I mean, I was at I was at her space last night. My life hasn't changed.
What pushes you to work that hard?
I'm crazy.
For some people,
I'm crazy, I guess.
For some people, it's simply a fear of failure, right? And they can never go, well, what if? Like, for me, that's a lot of what my work ethic is like, well, what if this doesn't work? Am I going to be able to look back and say, well, if I would have worked a little harder, or if I would have been a little bit more disciplined, maybe it would have worked out. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, I want to eliminate variables for risk and failure. So then I know if I failed, it's because I just wasn't good enough at it. And it doesn't mean I can't succeed in the future, but it does mean that I couldn't give anything more at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm, like I said, my personality and the way my brain and just my outlook on things, I've really just been the person that has always wanted to not have regrets. Especially, I mean, obviously, I always like to talk in generalities, like in just general terms and stuff. But for me, it's like, I always come back to music. Well, for me, music is way more than just me as a drummer. It's like the person that I am. It's like music is way more than that. It really does define who I am.
Right.
What music does for me, where it puts me in a headspace, what it can do for my life in a positive or a negative manner, how it can be a positive thing. And I don't know. It's just a tough thing where I guess it's just, I have so many things still that I want out of drumming and music, where I don't feel that what I'm doing is what I should be doing still right now. And that's the person I am.
Right.
Like I've been, you have a lot of self-doubt. I mean, it's pretty human. You go through your ups and downs. I've had a really personally a different last year and a half with a lot of things, but I mean, it's all the same thing. It's relative.
Right.
I don't, it's just, I just know that I love music. I love playing drums, and it seems right. And it's not just about drumming. It's just what I care about. I'm not going to half-ass something.
Right.
Definitely
use the whole ass.
You got to use the whole ass.
The whole thing, even the butthole.
It's consistency. Like, I'll give you an analogy. Coincidentally, I had a friend that he's a super awesome car guy. He was helping me look over some stuff on one of my vehicles because he drag races and stuff. And, he said to me, when he got into car stuff, because that's, drums is like the fucking money pit it's the worst money pit out of any instrument.
Yep.
And it's like he was saying,
I think the only habit or hobby that's more expensive than drums is probably meth. Right?
Yeah, well, maybe not even.
It just depends on how many cymbals you break. But $300 a pop.
Fuck. I should have done meth. But yeah, no, he said to me, it's like, for him getting into car stuff, because racing is, car shit is terrible like that. And people, a lot of people might not know that, but it is an expensive hobby.
I feel like all fucking hobbies are expensive now, dude. Like I've been into guns my whole life, but never had to buy any. And I just started buying guns this year for obvious reasons, right? I grew up in a family of guns, so it was never something I wasn't familiar with, but I had never really gotten into the prices and the costs of everything. And like, fuck, dude, it doesn't matter if you go get yourself you can get a nice pistol for $500-600, a really nice one. Like you can get a Glock for $600, $650, right? If you can find one. But ammo, right? It's like our analogy is sticks. Fine, you get the right symbols for your style, you get everything right, so you're not breaking sticks and heads.
Well, it's just something you have to keep buying.
Yeah,
you can't.
You're not breaking cymbals and heads all the time, but You're still going to nickel and dime yourself with these sticks,
Yeah.
you know, and then there's different qualities of all of that shit along the way. And it's like you start, when you really get into whatever hobby it is, man, they all seem to cost a fortune. I've seen this dude doing this, you know, those fucking airsoft battles and shit.
Yeah.
Man, some of these guys got $1,200 airsoft guns, and it's like I could buy a really nice real gun for $1,200.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to lose my thought. Real quick.
Sorry, man.
No, not to cut you off, but my buddy, because he got so big into cars when he was younger, that made him have to work harder.
I see what you're saying.
That made him work hard as fuck because he had this hobby that's, you know, and it's just funny because he was telling me, he's like, I can spend $250 at the grocery store and be like, what the shit is this? He'll spend $3,000 on whatever on a car and he won't even think twice about it because he loves going fast, and that made him like, and this, like I said, it's like my drumming and whatever it is, drumming, fitness, or anything, my family, you know, my relationship, anything like that. It's like I just am that person where if I'm care about something, I want to be all in.
Right.
I don't want to just like kind of diddle away and like, you know, just kind of be there. It's like I want to fucking be there and experience the endeavor.
So how'd you get into music in the first place? Like when was it? Like when did you know you loved music and wanted to do it?
To do it?
Not even when did you start playing drums? Like when did you get into music where you're like, this is fucking something else, man?
My one aunt and uncle were the ones that got me into metal when I was super young, like 6, 7, 8 years old. And I just knew, you know, like seeing like Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, you know, Iron Maiden cover, and like, because that for me, the first, besides, well, Striper, To Hell with the Devil was one of them too. 'Cause that's fucking metal as fuck. But Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2. It's like, you know, I went over to my aunt and uncle's place, and it's like I see these covers and everything, and it's like, whoa, this is wow, this is crazy. Right. So I mean, those were my real introductions to like metal. It's like I was into like Michael Jackson and Bon Jovi and stuff. Right. But I think that just music, just at a very, very young age, did something for me, and I got, you know, into playing guitar. I didn't really play drums until later on. That's the thing is, you know, a lot of people, you know, they start at a really young age, and I mean, I didn't even have my first drum set until I was 17.
No shit,
17, yeah, probably 17, wow. 18. So, yeah, like the first year.
What was your first drum set when you finally got one?
My first drum set was a Premier XPK, and I still have it, and it's an amazing drum set.
I was just going to say, that's not like a normal starter kit.
It's like
I mean, a lot of people, it's that Pearl Export $500 package that came with cymbals and stands and everything included.
No, that was at the time. So that kit specifically, that was Premier's, like, they had put out, this was supposed to be a middle of the road kit for them. But what happened is they only made them, I want to say they only made them for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And then it was like, oh shit, we are losing so much on what we're selling these kits for, and what we make, like what they actually are. So they discontinued that line and everything. And it's just a birch kit, but the construction on it is amazing. It's an amazing sounding kit. I had all the, you know, I redid the hardware at one point and had all the bearing edges recut, but I still have it. I still have it.
That's cool as hell, dude.
But yeah, like the first year and a half, I played on someone else's drum kit, because me getting involved with drums is just like a complete fluke.
No shit.
It was a complete fluke.
How do you know that was your instrument?
You know,
because you mentioned, just to preface, in case the listeners didn't catch this, I heard you say this. You started with guitar, and then it was a coincidence you ended up on drums. So you knew at some point in time, you knew you wanted to do music, because you decided to pick up an instrument. Period. Right?
It was there,
and it started with. So let's start there. what was it that switched from you love metal to I want to be a musician?
I honestly, I don't know.
No shit.
It's not in that I say I don't know because
so it wasn't.
It's who I am.
So there was nothing.
I'm not gonna
So there was no deliberate conscious choice. Like for example, a lot of guys like I had Justin Crandall on the podcast, and he talked about how he was super into music through high school football and shit. He started playing guitar, I think, about the same age you started playing drums, like 17, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
And he got injured in sports and couldn't play sports anymore. And then kind of at the same time discovered guitar and got
kind of did
music.
that, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Because I played hockey.
Yeah.
I had to give up hockey when I, got into music. I did get a concussion, though, the last year of tryouts, right when I was like, maybe I need to get more into music now. No, but I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's there.
Some guys are like, I did it because I wanted to get laid. And I was like, I was an awkward kid, and like I seen musicians on stage with all the hot chicks, I mean, there's a million motivations for it. So I'm always curious about this.
Well, I think that I think anyone, especially when it comes to rock and roll, everyone's who doesn't like the idea, of being like a rock star. Like it's like, when,
right.
Especially when you're younger, but it was never anything like that. Because I mean, it was like metal. Even at the time, it's like, well, you're clearly not getting chicks. Like,
right.
You're not in this for the chicks.
I mean, dude,
I think it's just the aggression.
Even the metal dudes got some smoking hot chicks.
Oh yeah,
like it was kind of amazing.
Smart, yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of amazing, dude. Like, man, you've been in this scene as long as I have, dude. How many times have you seen a dude who's like not good looking?
What the shit?
Mediocre at his instrument. His band kind of sucks, and he's got the hottest chick in the room. He's in a death metal situation, and there's like pretty stereotypical emo dudes or regular rock dudes, right? And they're like actually gorgeous, right? And they're really good at their instruments, and their band fucking rocks. And like, doesn't matter. There's something about certain death metal dudes where they got beautiful women.
I don't know. There's some kind of allure, I guess, with the weirdness of the musician.
Like, oh, dude, I know a couple specific in my head. I don't want to put them on blast, but there's a couple where I've like walked up to them and I'm like, dude, really,
what the hell are you doing with this?
You really outkicked your coverage on that one, didn't you, bud? Like, Jesus, fuck, man.
I mean,
surprise! Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, well,
what's worse though is when you see the really good-looking dudes with like a chick that's like, you're like, you do realize you could do a little better, right, bud? But they're always great dudes. They're like, I love her. It's like, okay, well, never mind then. I mean, if you love her,
I mean, well, I guess. We're all going to be ugly and decrepit at some point.
Right.
So,
right.
Beauty and looks and everything only lasts so long.
That's another thing, dude. I was going to say, when you showed up, dude, you look great, man. Like, you're fucking...
You too.
Thank you, man. Alex looks good.
I wish you would have left the sweater on. I know you were talking about the sweater before.
Oh, dude, the sweater's so comfortable, dude. Yeah. The sweater's so comfortable. But I wear it because I get chilly down here. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's not just a comfort
cozy
thing.
In here
right now it is. But when we got that little cold spell, it fucking got cold, dude. It was pretty fucking brutal. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's like I see everyone in our scene, like... I shouldn't say everyone. There's a bunch of us that actually like are aging decently, Thank you for saying I'm one of them. But dude,
because you're mid-30s, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of guys our age that don't look good.
No.
Like they don't. Oh. It's the part, and that's kind of where I was going at earlier, is like you're super into your discipline, you take care of your body, you're serious about your craft, you've never been a party animal. Not saying you're a fucking snob or a prude or anything, but
I'm just like it. Like I said, I don't. I guess I'm more collected, because I mean I think it's just really weird. There's probably been times where you've been around me and I've been like pretty fucking lit up.
Yeah, but
I'm just that guy.
You just don't seem drunk.
My eyes will get kind of goofy. They'll get kind of glassy. And I mean, the one thing is I'm always fucking red. You know, it's like you say something stupid, I start laughing like a hyena, you know, or like just kind of smirk and my face is red. But yeah, when I drink, my face gets super red. But yeah, I guess luckily I've never been the blackout flopping over, don't remember anything. Like even at my most fucked up points, it's like I still remember most of the night, strangely enough.
Yeah, and it's strange because believe it or not, I actually at shows at least don't party that hard. Like I have a lot of fun, but before the show, I'm so focused on what's about to happen that there's no getting drunk. Like I will literally take a couple sips of beer just to kind of offset the anxiety. But I walk up on stage with either a Coke or a Mountain Dew or something, a water, and a beer. And I'll drink all three during my set. And then when I get off, if I feel good about the set, if we had a good crowd response, I'm having fun, like it's a great vibe, the other bands are really good, I'll let it loose. But that doesn't mean I got to get shit-faced. That just means like, all right, let's fucking party. Like I am kind of a party animal, you know? I always used to be told there's two different versions of me. There's like normal Jared, and then there's on Jared. And then eventually we nicknamed him. His name's Jared Lee Roth. And that guy pissed a lot of people off.
I heard you talk about it. Yeah.
But that guy is also the one that everybody loves to party with. Like people don't like partying with chill Jared because I'll just sit in the corner and fucking listen to music and fucking sip on my beer by myself.
You got to tilt it just a little bit one way. It can't be. It's that balance. You got to be fucked up, but not like flopping around and pissing everyone off, kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, but getting back to this thing, so I wanted to explore this with you. How did you accidentally end up on drums, or coincidentally end up on drums? I find that interesting.
It's a really cool story, actually. So I met my good friend at the time in high school. I met Luke Larson and Justin Lowe and a handful of other people.
Oh, Justin!
When I was
Justin Lowe from ATB.
Yeah. So
Luke Larson sounds like a superhero, by the way.
Yeah.
He is. I don't know him, but I do know. I did know Justin.
I was very good friends with Justin for a very long time.
So did you grow up in White Bear Lake?
I did.
With those boys?
Yep. So we all went to school together, and what happened was, so I knew Justin and I knew Lucas and a couple other guys, and they were in a band, and I was 15, I think. I was 15, going on 16. And I was like...
You were already in a band, you said?
No. So they were in a band.
Oh, sorry.
So my buddy Luke and Justin and some other guys, they had a band. And they're like, yeah, you want to come over and you listen to
Was it metal already, or were they doing something else?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it was metal. And Justin actually played drums in this band.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. So I went over, and it was a really cool setup because Lucas's dad was a musician, and he had a really, especially at the time.
Hold on, let me pause you just in case the viewers don't know who or what we're talking about and why this is so significant. Justin Lowe is a guitar player, or was a guitar player before he passed, for a band called After the Burial. They were absolutely huge here, and they're probably the most successful, heaviest band to come out of here. I understand Head Charge was technically bigger.
Different genre, though. Yeah.
Way different genre. Not nearly as heavy as ATB.
Yeah, no.
Not nearly as heavy. And Justin Lowe is probably one of the best guitar players and songwriters in that genre. Mm-hmm. And After the Burial is known around the world. They are not a local band though. Like that's one of those bands that truly popped. Now, don't get me wrong. You guys are fucking signed to Prosthetic Records. Well, that's no small feat though.
This is different though, yeah.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's tiers. We all gotta look at this thing respectfully, right? We got American Head Charge, we got Bob Dylan, we got Prince, we've got a lot of huge acts. We got
Soul Murder Asylum, and Disembodied.
I mean, but those are again on the heavier side of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After the Burial, specifically Justin Lowe's role in that band, it's kind of a wild story to hear. Like, you were on guitar, even if you weren't taking it seriously, and you coincidentally ended up on drums. and it's involving that dude who's one of the best guitar players around, who was at the time playing drums. I just find this fascinating. This is super funny. So sorry, go ahead. Keep going. So Justin's playing drums in this band.
Yeah, so Lucas and him and a couple of the other guys, because I knew Lucas and Justin the most, and I'd not known them very long. This is probably like the first month and a half that I knew them.
Is Luke, was he or is he in the scene?
No.
Okay. No, so no. I shouldn't know.
No, okay, it's not. He didn't. Yeah, later on.
I almost felt bad for a second.
No,
do I know this guy and I'm just not remembering his name?
No, this is nobody that you would know. Okay. But so I went to their practice. They had a really cool setup because, like I said, Lucas's dad was a musician. Had a really nice studio setup. So they jammed and they took a break, and it's cool because it's like I still think about these things all the time, because literally this is the point where I guess this is the point where I guess I'm supposed to be a drummer maybe, but I never thought of it like that for a long time. But so they took a break, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I go mess around on the drums? I've never touched a drum set. Like, yeah, fuck yeah. And they were like outside, and I went down. I had no clue what I was doing. And then Lucas and all of them come down, and they're like, how long have you been playing drums? And I'm like, I've never touched a drum set in my life. And I remember like,
so what'd you go down there and play? Like, what'd you go down there and do?
Fucking know.
Like, you bang around on the toms?
Yeah.
Like you had natural rhythm? Did you do like
I guess so.
Like maybe, or did you play like a drum beat?
Yeah, I remember doing like just.
Or did you just jump on and blast?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's definitely what I did.
I'm genuine. I'm not even asking these questions to patronize the viewers and the listeners. No. I'm curious about this because I have a similar experience, but keep going.
But so they came down when I was messing around, and I could somehow or another keep a beat. And they were asking me how long I played. And I'm like, I've never played. This is the first time I've ever touched a drum or a drum set in my life. And then the next 2 days later, Lucas and the other guys asked if I wanted to play with them because they were gonna kick Justin out of the band.
No shit, no way, dude.
Yeah,
that's so fucking wild. That is the craziest shit.
So that's
fucking unbelievable. Man.
And me and Justin were like really good friends. Like we were really close friends for a long time.
And you never jammed, after that? Did you ever jam with these guys or anybody else while you were on guitar?
No.
Okay, so it was just it's not like they were fucking bringing you over to possibly join the band anyways.
No, I just went over just because it's like, oh yeah, I want to come listen to you guys.
Yeah.
So that's
pretty wild.
So, yeah.
And did it happen? Did you join the band? Did they kick Justin out?
That's how it started.
No shit.
That is how it started.
So then what happened to Justin? Did he go off and start after the burial, or did he...
No, that was way later on.
So when did he start playing guitar? Do you remember?
He played guitar
the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know when he actually started, but he played guitar from a very young age. Because it was like me meeting Justin was him playing fucking Master of Puppets.
Really? Was it at school?
It was at a high school talent show.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Yes, those are the best stories.
So yeah, like he played from a very young age. It might not have been as far as I'm concerned, when you're 15, 16, if you've already been playing for, at least a couple of years, that's...
I started...
It's more than me.
12 or 13, and I played on guitar, and I played till I was like... somewhere between 17 and 19, and it's funny because in many ways I was a better guitar player then than I am even now. And I quit playing guitar foolishly to concentrate on singing, right? Which I was never good at. I don't know who the fuck gave me that advice, but hopefully that person's not managing any artists. And I ended up playing drums not till I was 24 or 25. It was way late in my life that I started playing drums.
That's what I always tell people, though. It's like It's never too late.
And that's
never too late.
And that's the thing is I knew I had drums like in my soul.
Mhm.
Like as a guitar player, no matter how good I was or wasn't, I always wanted to play drums too. And it was just like you kind of mentioned earlier, it was a little bit of a money issue, you know, because drums are fucking expensive. And I was a poor kid. And then, you know, just being in the scene and being in the industry and making a lot of friends, I got lucky. And I traded a bunch of vocal equipment for Rich's old drum set from the Skywine days.
Oh, wow.
He had upgraded to a new drum set, but he still had this one, and he hooked me for dirt cheap. And yeah, basically, there was just something about it. I just knew I was going to be able to do this, and I knew I was going to be pretty good. And like within 3 to 6 months, I knew I was onto something because without, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but I'm being serious. I knew I was onto something because within 3 to 6 months of playing drums, starting at 24 or 25, I would go out to local shows, specifically in the rock scene. And I'd look at like my buddies and like that we were jamming with, you know, my band members, and I'd be like, dude, I'm already a better drummer than these guys. And he goes, I know. And that's sad, right? Because I wasn't that good is the point. But it was like, oh, like
that fire though.
These guys are out there doing it. And like, I'm already better than them. So all I got to do is get my shit together and get as good as I can, as fast as I can. And we're going to be just fine, at least with me as the drummer.
Yeah.
That's in a rock band. Now, in a metal band, I'm not going to lie. I don't think I would be a great metal drummer. I think I would be a below average metal drummer. But you put me in a rock band and people, they're like, dude, that fucking Jared dude's a beast. I'm like, I don't know if I'm a beast, but I'm kind of tricking you all. Like almost that imposter syndrome, right? Like I put myself in a genre of music where it made me look better than I was. Does that make any fucking sense? Because it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it makes sense to other musicians or listeners. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's better that way. Mystique.
I mean, that's kind of the thing. Isn't that the trick though, as a musician, is to hide your weaknesses?
Fuck yeah.
You know, I was telling like Josie, I tell a lot of young musicians this, like, here's what you do. Here's the secret. Push it to 11 and then dial it back a couple notches. Like, that's how you should be writing and performing your music is like try to go to 11, which is just beyond what you're capable of actually doing, and then dial it back just a couple notches. So you're always kind of like if you're looking at the meter, right?
You should have probably been telling me, Alex, that for the last 10 years.
Oh, trust me, I've told Alex that. Alex has known me for a long time. We've had a lot of conversations on the disc golf course.
I guess I had been telling Alex that along the way.
Right. No, you guys are interesting because like you're a real pusher in that band too. And when I mean pusher, I mean like you're one of the driving forces in that band. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Alex is one of my best friends. I know his role in that band. He writes the guitar riffs. He's one of the creative forces in that band. But you're really probably the main engine in Reaping that keeps that band going full force all the time. No fuckery. And that's one of the things I respect about your band and you a lot, dude. And I just wanted to tell you that because that's something that I see from afar, and I find that very inspiring. Very inspiring.
And I've always been of the mindset, like with the people that, you know, we've played with and the people, you know, that are in the band, it's nothing. It's like, you know, I'm sitting there, it's like, as you're saying that, I'm like, well, yeah, but I think you know how that is. Every band has to have objectives. And it doesn't matter if it's like you want to play to 1 million people or, you know, we want to put a record out and we want to play some shows. It's like everyone has a directive. Mm-hmm. And it's like any job, you need a manager. And if you don't have somebody that can streamline things and to take that role on, it's a fucking mess. I mean, there's a reason that bands have managers. Right. Because that's what a lot of people need. And every band needs somebody that's going to wear that hat.
Yeah, and I think there's two managers. There's the, like, when you get to a level where you need to make your workflow more efficiently and decrease your personal workload, you get a real bona fide manager.
Yeah.
But even when you have that manager, there's still a guy in the band who's still a manager. He may not be the manager of the band because you have the manager now. You hired him.
The leader.
Or
whatever.
Band leader. They used to call it band leader, but that was literally like more music oriented. You know, you were the band leader.
Well, yeah, those terms are so, I mean, even saying that like sounds silly to me because I don't.
But there's always
like he's the band leader.
There's always that one guy though that keeps everyone on the same page, like a unified front. We're all moving towards one goal. And this is what we have to do right now to accomplish. Jason Jacobson used to say, his phrase was like, let's focus on the task at hand. You know, and I just caught myself using that the other day talking to my guys. Like, we're getting really motivated. We're getting closer to getting this record done, I guess you could say. Like, it's been moving along. Everybody's starting to get really fired up because it's all starting to come together and everyone's hearing the full picture instead of the shitty demos I wrote a while ago, right?
You're able to get more and more excited about it.
Yeah, because guys are adding in their the
layers.
Yeah, their colors, their spices.
Yeah.
The spices. Yeah, right. So all of that's happening and guys are getting really fired up. So now everyone's like, oh, dude, we could do this and we could do that. And it's like, I'm down for all of that, but let's get this done first. Mm-hmm. Because if we continue to look 2, 3, 4, 5 steps down the road, we're going to miss the next stepping stone. We're going to slip footing and you slide down the mountain. Kind of mixed analogies there, but I think that's important. And I've noticed there's always that guy in every single band. And you're that guy. And that's what I'm curious about is like, how do you approach that when you've got a guy who's either new or young or hasn't paid his dues? And I'm not even just talking in Reaping. I'm talking in all the experiences you've been in, right? Mm-hmm. You know exactly what I'm getting at. I think you do, because there's always that band member where I start a band, there's somebody, in every band I've been in, the first band, I was the kid, right? And then there's always a guy who, like, basically the band doesn't need to pay their dues anymore. This band, because we paid our dues in the last 3 bands, right? So we already have the connections. We can get the shows. We can get in front of the crowds. We can do all that, right? But there's that new guy who didn't go through all that. And so he experiences this extreme amount of quick success. And either he starts getting lazy, he starts taking it for granted. He's getting a little bit of a little arrogance and ego. Like, I'm just curious, how do you deal with that? And obviously, it changes person to person. But like, how do you approach that mindset? How do you approach that problem, whatever it might be? And I'm kind of throwing a lot at you with that question, but I'm curious. Are
you just saying if I have or would be in that position, like in the band, like having like conflicting, like someone you have to, there's so many variables that play into that.
Like, let's say singer guy isn't, and not your current singer, I'm hypothetically singer guy in band X that you're in. Mm-hmm. You're 2 months before actually recording the record and he doesn't have any actual lyrics written.
I mean, it's just, for the person I am, it's just hounding them and starting to work on things myself, or like attempting to. And
so like writing lyrics for them. If you're not going to write them, I'll write them, bitch.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad move.
And I used to, there's so much involved in the music and Reaping as far as Alex is, Alex obviously really well, and he's one of my closest friends and
great guy. Shout out to Alex.
Big shout out to Alex. Alexander Kelly.
No, Alex Kelly. Alex. No one calls him Alexander.
Yeah.
I gave him so much shit about
Sounds
that.
Like a conqueror.
I gave him so much shit about it on the podcast. I was like, no one calls you that, dude.
But I mean, it's so. Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably, it's more in the last handful of years. But even like me, anyone meets me, they're gonna call me Dan.
Yeah, no one calls you Daniel either.
I haven't gone by. I have never introduced myself in that manner for a very, very, very long time, because I've always hated Dan.
Why do you go by Daniel?
Because I fucking hate Dan.
It's just that simple. Why do you hate Dan? Is it just because it's such a simple, cheesy? That's how I feel about Jared.
It sounds like such a.
I hate the name Jared.
You sound like a bummer.
I hate the name Jared. It's so weak.
Oh, no.
And think of any famous Jareds. They're all either annoying or they suck. right? So like it could only be
something
Jared,
to think about there,
right?
Jared.
Like you got that piece of shit with the jewelry store, right? You got Jared Fogle, fucking pedophile, right? Doesn't get much better, right?
The jewelry store guy's laughing on a pile of money at you right now.
Yeah, but he's also like a joke. Like it's bad. It's not a good. It's not a good joke. He's like the My Pillow guy, and then you got Jared fucking.
He's not
Kushner.
that bad. He's not worse than the My Pillow guy. He's not worse than him.
The My Pillow guy's the worst. I refuse to know that dude's name. I don't even call him by his real name. He's the My Pillow guy, which is probably worse because that's like advertising for him.
Yeah.
Every time I say it, it's a plug. Yeah, fuck that guy. you know the scandal behind him, right?
He's laughing at us on a pile of money.
In case anybody doesn't get the joke, that guy, the guy who makes pillows, he's got a lot of sexual harassment complaints and lawsuits against him.
Really? He's smoked a lot of crack.
Yeah, I know, and people give him credit for
maybe
that.
That
he's a recovering drug addict.
I suppose we got off the topic.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a podcast, dude. That's why I try to tell people this isn't 60 minutes. Like, Jesus Christ. If we just sat here and talked about the old, like, if we really tried to have a 3-hour conversation on drumming, even drummers would get bored after a while. There's only so much you can do.
You got to shoot from the hip a little bit.
So what do you guys got coming up, man? I know Alex said you guys are working on some stuff.
No.
Are you going to do some live stuff? Or are you going to try to figure out how to pivot with this COVID shit? Because it doesn't sound like it's ending anytime soon. I predict another major lockdown, not just a fucking continuation of the restrictions.
Fuck that. I mean, we're just in a, like, Reaping is in a weird position because...
Whatever you do, don't do it on Facebook.
Yeah.
You read about that?
Yeah. Well, it's just such a joke. I mean, nobody's wanted to use Facebook for any of that kind of stuff for so long now.
But people have been flooding it since COVID. You know, they're doing live streams for playing video games and fucking live concerts and shit. And
I saw that they're going to be limiting all that stuff.
Yeah, and they might be deleting band pages. I heard somebody explain it in a very rational way, but at the same time, I'm like, simply deleting a band's page for any reason is like, it's like murdering an art form. Like you're deplatforming an entire band. Like you're not saying we're going to take your live stream down. Like that would be the reasonable response to me, right? Like, oh, if you're fucking trying to create a music listening experience instead of connecting with people, we're going to answer, take your live stream down. It doesn't seem rational to me that you're like, we're going to start deleting band pages because you're just going to kick all the musicians off your fucking platform.
Yeah. Then I don't know. It's one of those things because they're just another, corporation that probably thinks they have everyone by the balls still. So
Facebook's a weird thing, man. I'm not even sure how I feel about it anymore. Like I've
hated it. I think everyone has pretty much been over it for a long time. It's just that that and Instagram are the two main platforms. You gotta
be on there if you want to. I mean, there's just no way to connect with the world anymore. Like there's back in the day, there was other options. So even when this shit was first emerging, you didn't have to be on there. You could legitimately do fine, but that's how everything is done now. It's a minimum standard. And I think it's going back to the time, or you know what I'm trying to say, where you also got to have a website now too, because these fucking social media websites come and go, and between popularity and what they're doing. And so I really think comedians and musicians need to go back to getting real websites.
Well,
and hosting everything themselves.
So I mean, everything's going to flip completely at one point. Whether that's next year or in another 5-10 years, I don't. Yeah, it definitely will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fucking wild. So you guys aren't really, other than writing and recording, you're gonna not. I mean, I know you, because this is where I'm segueing into it. If the band's not doing anything, what about you? Because you've done these drumming videos, you've done so much cool shit on the internet that, again, this is one of those things that I've watched from afar and found very, very cool, very inspiring. Like you've got.
Thank you.
It was wild. I had Alex on the podcast, and it was the first podcast where I figured out how to put the little cards up at the end of the screen, right? So like recommended next video. Yep. And it went out of that and it went into another interview of you and him. I think you guys played a show at the Garage way back in the day when you were a brand new band. And they did this interview with you guys. And then from there, it jumped into your drumming videos. And dude, I was on your shit just by YouTube for like fucking like 40 minutes, dude. It was awesome. I was like, this dude's like really doing this shit.
45 minutes away from your life. Like
no, it was worth it, man. Because again, it's one of those things where even though I'm not deadly into that style of music, I am a musician. I love music. I love watching somebody at the top of their game in whatever genre they're in. That's how I got into shuffling in the first place. Like I got into shuffling not being into any music that has shuffling in it. And if you guys are confused what the hell I'm talking about when I say shuffling, I've talked about it on the past podcasts. I'm not going to break it down every single time, but I started watching these guys do this at the top of their game, and I was like, dude, that's fucking awesome. I gotta work on that. I gotta add that into my toolbox. And so it was really cool because you've been doing these covers. You've been doing these covers and these drum videos and shit for a long fucking time.
Yeah, and it's been a minute. Well, so
they're fucking good, dude.
Thank you.
They're good, man.
And I mean, Steve, our singer, he typically has done the audio and video on the majority. I mean, there was a handful that some other people did the video stuff, and our old bass player did the audio on.
You talking about Muley?
No,
Jakey
Roman.
Poo. I call him Jakey Poo.
Jakey Poo.
I used to work with him.
Roman. He was the bass player that was with us for a year and a half, 2 years after Jacob moved.
Yeah, that's the white kid with the long blonde hair, right?
Yeah. Yep. But Steve
looks Irish as fuck.
Yeah.
Or Scottish or something.
I mean, Alex looks Irish as fuck, kind of. Something. He's something.
I don't know what Alex looks like. I don't know. He's just a ginger.
Yeah. I don't know what you ginger. Are. But yeah, so Steve.
My wife's a ginger. She's probably watching.
That's okay.
She's probably watching this right now. She's like, "You son of a bitch."
So. Yeah, Steve has done the audio and a lot of the video on a lot of the stuff, but our situation is kind of weird because we started working on this album, earlier last year, and it took a lot for me and Alex to get into a groove. It was a lot, like for me, it was a lot of nights of working on stuff and kind of like pounding my head against a wall and like. It took a long time, and basically we had decided it's like if we don't shut down and stop like playing shows here and there and trying to tour while we're trying to finish writing more than half this record and to record it.
So you don't write on the road?
It's I have, and it's hard. It just depends. I have, and like especially on this record, it's cool because
I feel like it's way easier for guitar players.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of weird, when you're a drummer doing that. But I do a lot of, I write a lot of stuff back and forth.
Do you write in your head at all?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's stuff that might have been sitting around for.
Because this is
quite a few years that ends up.
Because it's interesting you brought this up right now, because that was going to be one of the next couple questions I got to. This is a great segue for it. Is how do you write music? This is the number one question I get from non-musicians: is where does it come from, and how do you do it? How do you go from nothing to your song is done? Like creatively, I'm not saying mechanically per se.
I mean, are you asking just specifically with reaping stuff?
You specifically as a drummer when you're writing your parts to your songs, because I know Alex will come with some concepts of a groove or a beat so he can like show you what he's thinking for the timing. But he's talked to me in the past, and he goes, sometimes Dan will get real close to what I'm doing, and then sometimes he won't do anything even remotely close to what I'm doing. But however he gets from A to B, because we talked about this on the disc golf course back in the day, and he used to say, however he gets from A to B, it works. So I do what I do. I give it to him. He does his thing, and then we come together and we just keep working on things.
We have a really, really unorthodox writing style. So for anyone that's listening, me and Alex have been playing together, and for quite a while. He was in my previous band also, and so me and him have been playing together for like 13 years. Like 12, 13 years now. But
yeah, let's hold on. I want to break that down because that's another question I wanted to ask you. So we'll just slip it in now. When did you join Dead Hands? Like what year was it?
It was, I filled in for quite a while I was still doing my previous band. It was probably like 2003 into 2004 because it was like I filled in for an extended period of time, and then my previous band was kind of like ending it, and it was like, okay, well, why don't...
Did you join that band when they rehearsed? You walked up a huge flight of steps, and then you took a left.
Taylor.
Yeah, and you took that left at the top of the staircase, and they were right there at the end of the thing.
At the end, yes.
My band, 7 Months of Nothing, was directly next door to you guys. My very first band, we were directly next door to you guys.
I was probably...
And I remembered meeting you either when you came to fill in or when you came to audition or something. Something went down there.
We practiced there for... It was a chunk of time. Maybe a handful of months,
that band,
3, 4, 5 months.
So we can fast forward without being disrespectful. That band, and why I brought it up, because I don't want people to think we're getting too far. I'm not digressing here. That band went through a fucking rotation at every instrument forever, and eventually, all the founding members were gone, and it was your band.
No, so.
At one point in time, you were the senior band member. Like, you had been in that band longer than anybody else.
No, Burke. That would have been Burke.
Pat Burke?
No.
Oh, okay.
The singer, Burke. So no, what? It was kind of weird.
Oh,
because
yeah, and then when he left...
He was in it the whole time until the end, till we called it a day. But what happened was that...
And that's why you guys switched names.
Why Alex came into the picture was because Ty wasn't doing all the touring with us. And we had to keep trying to find a fill-in.
Was that the rhythm or the lead guitar player? Because there was two...
Ty was like more of the lead.
Okay, that's what player. I thought. That's what
like
I thought.
I
didn't know those guys super well.
Brian did a lot of stuff too, but yeah. I mean, that's a whole... It just depends on how much you want to get into that. But yeah, so that's how Alex came into the picture, is because we were like trying to get more into it, and we were doing these tours.
And he was coming out of the Body Beneath, correct? With Pat.
Yep.
And they went on to become Australis, and then he joined up with you guys in Dead Hands. But then it wasn't long before you guys kind of ended that. It didn't seem long, and then all of a sudden, boom, Reaping was a thing, and it was you and him. It was your guys' deal, and you guys put that band together from the ground up.
Yeah, so we started when everything kind of like started getting to the point where we were all kind of done at the time with Dead Hands. It was kind of like, it's really funny now because like me and Burke, when we were in that band, we did not get along at all, and with Dead Hands Rising.
The whole time, or just towards the end?
Pretty much the whole time. And he's a really good friend of mine now. I mean, when you're younger,
right?
It just depends on what kind of person you are. You can I can look back and like laugh at a lot of that shit because me and him are really good buds, and I think out of that band, I think he gave me the most shit, and he was just, at that time, he drank a ton, and that's all, like, it's just like everyone was a little crazy. You're younger and you're touring and whatever, but so it got to a point where everyone that was in the band at that time, this was like 2008, or Logan, our other guitar player, because they're basically, Alex got brought in. He was like basically the third guitar player because Ty would do some tours, but not all of them. And Logan was there permanently. He replaced Brian Mundy. Like you said, there was a lot of people.
Yeah.
There was and there wasn't.
Because I'm even talking before you joined. Like, that's what I'm saying. Because, like, I was next door to those guys.
Couple drummers, different singer, different guitar player.
Yeah, because there was 2 drummers that I know of before you joined. There was the original guy, and then they had some kid drive up from Chicago and audition, and I was there that night, and he got the job that night. He was that fucking good. And then he wasn't in the band long, and then you came in. And I was there next door to you guys.
You're probably thinking of Tim Java, and he's actually from here. Is that who you're thinking of? Because basically,
this kid drove from out of state. It was either New Jersey or Chicago, or it was somewhere crazy.
There was Dan Johnson. He was from here. And there was Dave Blasky. He was on the EP. So they had a full length that Dan Johnson was on. Then Dave Blasky came into the picture before the EP came out.
And who knows, the kid could have been originally from here, but was out there at the time.
This is the funny thing is that, anyone that cares about these kinds of things, just like when I was talking about how I got involved with music, it's funny because there's a lot of people that always thought Tim recorded on the Horror Grows Near EP that With Dead Hands Rising did, but that was Dave. Dave recorded that, and he left the band before they ever put it out.
Interesting.
So Tim's in all the pictures and everything, and Tim's an amazing drummer, but a lot of people would always think that he recorded that album, but that was Dave Blasky. But yeah, so Tim Java was in the band. He ended up getting the offer to play with Dead to Fall that was from Chicago.
Yep.
So he went and was playing with them, and that's how I started filling in for them. There was in between when I actually joined and I was filling in, there was a kid from Kevin from Illinois that was a friend of Burke's, and he filled in for a couple, like 1 or 2 tours, and it was one of those things where
maybe
they were gonna have him play, I think, but then I had kind of mentioned to them like, oh yeah, I think we're going to call it a day for, my project, Remnants of the Executed or Section Hate, whatever,
You were in Section Hate?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So.
That's one of the coolest band names of all time, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so cheesy, but so awesome.
Okay, I guess so, yeah.
It's like, it's one of those things. It's like Death Clock, like Metalocalypse. Like, it's like you're embracing the, like, just sheer pun of it all.
Pretty much.
You know what I mean? It was awesome. It was great. It was great. It just worked so well. It was and it was a cool band. I didn't know that because I saw you guys a couple times when I first jumped into the scene. I'd seen you guys like once, maybe twice. I think
it was a fun band.
I think it was the Urban Wildlife.
Could have been. I think we only played there twice. We didn't get to play there as many times as I wish I could have.
That was an awesome club.
Yeah, I got to see a handful of shows there. I just only played there a few times.
I saw Slipknot there once.
What?
Yeah, when they were just coming up. I was like 16. I snuck in with a friend.
I saw Spineshank there.
Because I was just getting into music. And, when I say getting into music, I was just like, I had been writing music, and I had this CD I'd recorded at my high school in production class. I went to Creative Arts High School, and I had this, and people that I knew that knew musicians and shit from the old school scene, like they would mention like, oh yeah, I know the guys from like Wookie Foot. I don't know if you know that name. They used to be huge.
Some of the guys in that band actually. They might still practice down the hall.
Right,
I cannot
they're still
remember.
around. I don't know any of the guys from Wookie Foot, but like I remember a lot of people.
A couple of those guys
them.
in that Trampled by Turtles band. Is that who?
I would not be surprised. But then there's
a couple of those guys I've met though.
But then there was Slow Children. There was
a cover band. Wasn't
it? Yeah, and I think Wookie Foot was too, or at least they did half covers, half original. I don't remember. I didn't actually know these bands, but people I knew them. And so they were like, yeah, dude, like let me bring you out to the local scene and like show you around. I'm like, okay. And they stuck me into the Urban, 16 years old, and I saw Slipknot, and I had no idea what I was watching. I just remember like there was too many people on the stage, right? Like you remember how small that stage was?
Pretty awesome.
They played half off the stage. They sounded like shit because they were so fast. And there was too many instruments to properly mic. But it was one of the most insane things I'd ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember hearing on 93X morning show, getting ready for school on Monday morning, whoever was on the morning show talking about it. He's like, I seen this band from Slipknot. They had 9 members of their band. And I was like, dude, I didn't even know their name was Slipknot. I just seen this thing happen in front of me. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool, though.
That was probably the coolest urban thing. But I played there a couple times too, like you did. And that was a sweet fucking club, man. That was a sweet fucking club. Yeah, and it was a travesty that went under, because wasn't that directly across the street from Pizza Luce too?
It was right on the corner there.
Yeah, you would just walk across the street,
more or less on the corner. Yep.
But anyways, back to this Dead Hands Rising thing. So, and I don't want to spend too much time on Dead Hands, because it's not a band anymore. You know, I want to focus more on what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So basically, that shit kind of fell apart for whatever reason, and you guys started Reaping. Instead of keeping that brand going, you guys decided, and you did, as far as your sound as well, go a different direction. It's definitely not even close to the same band, and then it's not even the same band you guys started as it is today.
It's really weird, though, because, I mean, we still, every once in a while, there'll be people that they either do know that some of us were in that band, or they don't, and every once in a while there'll be that person that like doesn't know that, and they'll be like, God, you guys almost sound a little bit like with Dead Hands Rising or something like that, and be like, well, it's funny,
that's hilarious,
some of us were in that band. But I mean, it's really cool, because so Alex didn't write any of that music in that band, but he, strangely, even with me not ever like telling him, he kept, like, we had this like feel where there's definitely riffs here and there, still even on the record that's not out there, where it's like totally reminds me of some stuff, like, you know, from Dead Hands, because it's like they had a very signature metallic and melodic kind of metal sound. Like,
not Metallica.
I hope fucking Metallica. But yeah, so it's still there and it's a different band. But yeah, like, so me and Alex, basically how Reaping started was me, Alex, and Logan, the other guitar player, one of the other guitar players in Dead Hands. You know, that band was going to call it a day. We still wanted to do something. We had started kind of fiddling around with music for what would have been the next record for Dead Hands, which was Reaping stuff. So we started practicing, and Logan was only playing with us for like a handful of months after that, and he kind of had a lot of other stuff and was trying to go a different route, you know, with his career and this and that.
Right.
So me and Alex started working on what would be the first Reaping material, just me and him, and we actually we were at Cooler Sound in a room, you know, like this size.
I remember Cooler Sound.
We were there too. It was basically like my fucking drum set.
Yeah.
Him like standing over me. It was a really small room, but that's, you know, we tried out singers and everything, and that's like how we found Tim. We tried him out there and some other people, and but yeah, that's basically how that band started.
So back to this writing thing. You were saying you and Alex have a really interesting writing process, or unique. Yeah.
So Alex has come a long, long way. And I mean, just as a musician and as a whole, his skill level is just fucking phenomenal. He just blows my mind how he just excels every year that we keep playing together. He excels and excels. And him as a composer, he's gotten a lot more and more into it and submerged himself more into it. But typically, a lot of times, more times than not, I mean, there is stuff now, but it's very strange where I'll compose maybe 50 seconds, maybe a minute and a half, maybe it's a whole song almost, where I will literally compose a whole chunk of song just on drums. And I will program it all out, whether I'm writing it just on my computer or I'm writing it on my kit and back and forth. And I will give this to Alex and we discuss, like I explain to him, like, because for me, it's really weird. The way that I write stuff in Reaping is very unorthodox, where it's like okay, this is how I envision the starting of a song, or this bridge or whatever, this part.
Sure. Yeah.
And I have this, and I will either work from a part in the middle and work around it, or maybe it's the starting of a song. And we just have a very, very weird way that we communicate, and he understands exactly what I'm going for, because like I said, my ability to play guitar is not there at all. Like, I haven't played guitar in forever.
Right.
So it's literally me explaining to him, like, this is what I'm thinking, like this kind of riff or this style and this.
And he knows how to interpret your language.
I kid you not. Like, even how we started this new album, that's not out yet. And I was like, dude, we have to start it this way. This is, this kind of thing that, like, from this kind of band, like, this is how it has to start, like, big. And it's like he nailed it on the head. And he does that.
Shit.
He does that. It's just very, very strange. We have a very, very unique and a very, very unheard of kind of chemistry when it comes to.
That's the huge thing, is that chemistry.
Like the way that
it's the communication.
The way that the Reaping stuff is made, it wouldn't work if it wasn't me and him.
Right.
And it's not discrediting anyone else, because it's like Steve's a huge component to the creative process too. But as far as what Reaping could or would be, wouldn't be the same without, like, Alex, or,
right.
And the way that we can understand each other musically.
It's the communication, and that's huge for writing music.
We've been playing together for a long time.
Well, and even if you know proper music theory or not, like, this is what I found, is when it comes to collaboration, when I say, write something sludgy, what the fuck does that mean? It takes time for you to understand what I mean when I say sludgy. And so it's like, what I mean by sludgy might be different than from you from sludgy. And so, or like when I had Zach Boyd on the podcast, he's like, I want this soaring guitar riff here. And it's like, I think I know what these words mean, but I interpret them one way.
Yeah.
There is no right or wrong. It's just about, like, oh, when he says this, when I say that, we're trying to get to here. And then if you work with somebody over enough time, sometimes you don't even need those words. Like, I remember when I was working with Nick, my original drummer, I've had him on the podcast a couple times already. My very first drummer in 7 Months of Nothing, I wrote like so much music, and I always had drums in my head, but didn't know how to write them. I mean, I'm 14, 15 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I got a drum machine, and I let Nick use it, and he learned how to play drums with his fingers. And even though they weren't prolific level drums, they were exactly the beat concept I had in my head. And then once he got a drum set, I remember multiple times I would write a riff in exactly the drum beat I heard in my head he would naturally play. That took like 2-3 years for us to get to that point.
Well, yeah.
But man, it's just so nice, because when you're in a collaboration situation, it's like, fuck, dude, sometimes guys will come up with something you never would have thought of. There's other times dudes will come up with something where it's like, dude, that is fucking not good. And
you gotta have that. You're gonna come up. You're gonna come up with some stinkers,
right?
I mean, you have to. There's stuff that I've done, or stuff that Alex has done, and be like, yeah, that's not gonna make the cut.
How much shit do you drop in production? Like, when you're writing some shit, how much of it, when you actually get to recording it for real, you're like, you know what, this shit ain't working. We got to get rid of that. Or do you try to refine all of that before you even get there?
For our kind of music, for like technical metal in any manner, it's usually not really like that. It's like, there might be some...
Because you guys still get together in a room and practice your shit and rehearse your shit,
absolutely,
and write your shit together like a real fucking band. And I think that shows up on stage. That's why you guys are so fucking tight. That's why you guys are so fucking good, even with the insanity level of your music style and your execution of your art. The band is so tight on stage, and that's that is clear and obvious that you guys rehearse together and you have real chemistry, like real musicians, which I think is a dying ideal. It's just people aren't doing it. Well, COVID or not, COVID be damned. Throw that out the window. I'm saying that the ease of technology, people are just relying on sending tracks back and forward, and you lose that chemistry.
And I mean,
lose
there's
those moments
always
of magic.
It's a great tool, and especially with metal, it's definitely something that you kind of need in it to a certain extent.
Yeah, all those little hiccups, like
it's because it's so everything has to be so.
No
precise.
one ever writes that in metal, by the way. For the listeners, no one ever goes in metal. That was just he knows what I'm talking about. The weird little syncopations,
right that way all the time.
Like, throw your left kick on this upbeat here, even though you're doing this crazy thing with your right beat or your right kick. Just right here, just go. Just throw that in there because I'm going to up pick on this moment right here. If you're just sending tracks back and forward, like it's those little nuances to like, I call it articulate music, where it's not just flashy, right? Like Led Zeppelin was an extremely articulate band. That music would have never been as articulately written.
Well, it's
if
because
they weren't
you're
in the
looking
same
at
room.
the big picture and all fine tuning all the nuances and everything, and that. I mean, that's what makes something.
I think that's huge, man. I think that's so important, dude. And it's
I don't
really
want to cut you
must.
off. I'm gonna use the bathroom. real quick.
Go for it, dude.
I'm sure you'll entertain the guests for.
I'm gonna give them a preview of my new mix. I got a demo I'm gonna play. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this. I'm gonna play this. The mixes, vocals are a little hot, but I've been getting questions about when you guys are gonna finally hear some of my stuff. So here you go. Let me refresh this screen here. Make sure it's going to come through. Hopefully we don't lose anything on the frame rate. Hopefully it doesn't crash the live stream. We should be okay though. Here we go. Hopefully you guys dig this. This is probably not the best idea for me to do right now.
Revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having.
She's a little closer now, get higher when I think about it. She's a little closer now, I get high, I get higher. She's a little closer now, my hands have found out how to be the man, to be the whore. You know what this hatchet's for, this is what you think you want. Well, good luck, don't blow it
Probably
up.
not heavy enough.
Don't call me your boy. Hey,
The vocal mix is pretty hot. It's a demo. I just don't give a fuck.
I like it.
Just how far we're gonna take it tonight. We're gonna make it, we'll be alright. Cause I can see tomorrow when I won't feel so borrowed. Yeah. She's a little closer now. My hands have found out how to be the man, to be the whore. You know what this hatchet's for. If this is what you think you want, well, good luck, don't blow it up. I think you've broken another toy. Just don't call me your boy.
All right, we can get out of that now. Whoops. They can't hear it anymore, but I forgot to pause it over here.
Sounds cool.
That was a decent way to kill an interlude.
I listen and don't say that kind of bullshit. I'm not one of those metal guys. Don't give me that fucking bullshit.
Dude, I say it because it's like when I was putting this group together and trying to find guys, the music is either way too heavy or not heavy enough for almost everyone I talk to, including Pat Rulin. I was like, how much do I got to pay you to come track this? And he was like, dude, I'm not your guy. I'm not into it, bro. It's not heavy enough for me. And I love his honesty. I wasn't even sandy about it. I was like, thank you, man. Like, thank you for not patronizing me and bullshitting me. Like, oh, dude, I'm super busy. I'd love to. Just tell me you're not into it. Fuck, man. Just tell me you're not into it, dude. At least I know where you stand. Like, don't worry about my feelings. If I'm hurt by that, That's a problem with me, not with you. Like, you're not into the music. Like, I respected it. I wasn't butthurt at all. I love that guy so much. He's got to be one of the nicest, sweetest dudes I've ever met in my life.
He's a great dude. Great drummer.
He's a fucking great guy. So what were we talking about before?
Oh, the writing stuff.
Oh, yeah. Fucking the chemistry thing. That's what we were talking about. And just
and it's very uncommon, and you can attest to it, where you have people that play together. You know, Reaping's been a band for, over 10 years now. And me and Alex have been playing together, like I said, for like 13 years, give or take. To still remain like such good friends like we are, it's very uncommon. Like, it doesn't usually happen. It's like you might be boys and, you might be friends and everything, but to have like a longer lasting friendship or relationship in that manner, I mean, that transcends into our music. And that's kind of why we, like, my lady Caitlin, she always, says it's like we have,
you're like brothers, you're like family.
Yeah, like she sees how we interact, and she sees a lot of it. She sees a lot of dumb shit. And she's I've never really thought of this before until you said that. And it's just kind of hitting me now. Like, I think there's two types of band members. There's the ones that become family, and then there's coworkers. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. Like, you're boys, like you hang out and shit, but like, you never really develop that bond. And the more members of the band that can become that family type, those are the bands that stick together for 20 years, whether they make it or not. Because there's just something so special about that group that it's like, I mean, even if I'm in another successful band, I'm never going to quit these guys because that's my family. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I really think it is that simple. There's two types of band members. They're either coworkers or they become family. Yeah. It's one of the two. You're there, you get the job done, but you collect a paycheck, so on and so forth. Yeah. Have you ever considered being a jobber? Define a jobber. So I was a jobber for a short period of time, and I still pick up jobber gigs every once in a while where I will get a call from an artist. I don't actually get the call from the artist. I get a call from some sort of manager, booking agent, or tour manager, somebody saying, hey, we got 3 dates in your region. So hypothetically, Sioux Falls, St. Paul, and Milwaukee. And we're going to be there in 2 weeks. We need you to learn these songs. Here's what the pay is. You show up, you play a few gigs. Session work. But live. You do it for like a live performance. Session work is session work where you show up in a studio and you do it. Well, being a jobber is on the live side of things. Live session but work. But they call it, like, literally, it's called being a jobber. Like, that's the actual industry term. Like, I do for example. Then. Yeah. You know Derek Abrams? Derek Abrams was a jobber. And then he auditioned, and he was that's what he did. That's what you do if you want to be a professional musician, but you can't find the right band to be in. So, but you want to be a professional musician, you become a jobber or a session guy. You either work in the studio or you go play live backup, right? So, like, when Christina Aguilera toured or Beyonce tours and they have a real drummer in the background, that guy's a jobber. Now you got high level jobbers that get those gigs, and then you got really low level jobbers like me that get, like, quote unquote up and coming musicians. Honestly, they're people no one's ever heard of, right? It's like some up and coming country act or a pop artist. Like maybe they get a little bit of underground buzz, but they're not famous. Like, nobody would ever recognize any of the people that I've ever been a jobber for. I've never even heard of them since really I jobbed discrediting all these people. Like, well, I'm mostly discrediting myself. Oh. That's what I'm really getting at. It's like, I was never a high level jobber, but it's something people do. And then eventually he became the drummer of Ministry, because I'm talking about Derek Abrams. So, like, he was a jobber because he never was in love with it. Well, actually, he wasn't even a jobber originally. He was in Skywind. Wasn't he their drum tech? So he was Skywind. That happens with a lot of bands. So he was Skywind's drum tech. Well, I thought he was Ministry's drum tech too. And then he became the drummer of Skywind, and then they became Crash Anthem, and then they went back to being Skywind, and Rich rejoined the band, and Derek became a jobber. He played with Black Flood Diesel. He played with Dan Knight.
He played with a bunch of different acts around the country.
The first time I ever saw Derek play was when he was in sub-level, actually.
With
Greg Chilton.
Greg Chilton. Yep. Way back in the day. Yep.
Long time. Yeah.
So I don't know how he got the deal in Ministry.
I thought that he was their drum tech.
I heard he sent in a video. It shows what I know.
It could be. I could be wrong.
I mean,
could be totally wrong. But I thought he was there. I thought that's what I heard at one point. But that, like I said, that's not an uncommon situation.
I don't want to make the mistake I'm making a claim. The only thing I know,
speculating.
The only thing I know is that he was a jobber for a while, and it's a respectable deal. So you said you have done some of that stuff?
Yeah, I've done session work. I want to do plenty more as I have the time. Like I did a tour with a band last year, a band called the Agony Scene.
I've heard of those guys.
Yeah, they were around for quite a while, and they're a great band. Yeah, they were around for a very long time in the early 2000s.
How'd you pick up that deal? Did you know them?
So they were a band that was active for quite a while, and then they broke up in like 2009 or something. I think it was 2009. And then they got back together a couple of years ago, and they started working on another record, and then they put out another record. It's probably coming up on 2 years now, but so this tour was last year, but they put out a new record, and a buddy of mine was filling in for them from another band, and my buddy Brandon, he was in a band called Elysian.
Elysian? Like E-L-Y?
No, A.
Okay. There was a band.
They're a phenomenal band. They're on Metal Blade.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good. They've been around for a long time. But my buddy Brandon was filling in for them. Like the Agony Scene's first tour back was Summer Slaughter 2 years ago. So he did 2 tours with them, and then they had another tour coming up that he wasn't able to do. So they were asking him, who do you have anyone that you would suggest or who we should talk to? And he told them my name right away, and luckily he showed them some of my videos, blah blah blah, some of my music that I'd been involved with, and it kind of just went from there.
Yeah, you're like
and the first tour that I was going to do with them, it was a Canadian tour with Unearth and Darkest Hour, but a couple of the guys didn't get admitted past the border.
Oh, really?
They got denied. So
no shit.
So unfortunately that tour didn't happen, but a different one like a month and a half, 2 months later did.
Wow.
So yeah. And actually their bass player Jay, he actually just passed away, and he was super young. He literally just passed away like a week and a half ago. It's
brutal.
Super sad.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Super young. Like, well, younger than us. He was the young dude in the band, so pretty sad. He was a great dude.
How'd he pass?
He had kidney and liver problems.
Oof. Brutal.
Yeah, unfortunately, he had quite a few health complications that. Yeah,
that's fucked.
Yeah,
that's fucked, man. That shit's heavy, dude.
Pretty serious when you have kidney and/or liver failure at that age.
Yeah.
Late 20s.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I definitely do session work, and I want to do more. It's just kind of like we were talking before, this whole situation with the COVID thing and like where Reaping was at with our process as a band. It's like we had decided in like July, it's like if we don't shut down like after September for like 6 months, 7 months at least, we're not going to get this record done the way that we want, and we're not, it's just not going to happen. And so we did that. We played the last show that we played was in September. We had one festival that we played in December, but other than that, we were finishing writing and we had started recording, and we actually got the masters back from our record at the end of March. Right?
Really?
Like literally, it was I want to say we got what was close to the final mixes that last week in March.
Really?
And it's, I mean, obviously it's like at that point, it's like, holy shit, you know, as things kind of progressed, we potentially aren't putting this record out for quite a while.
Right.
Because one, it's like, you can't tour, you can't play. Well, how are you going to promote a record? We're not a super established band with a huge fan base that can really do that. I mean, we could, but for where we're kind of at in our succession as a band, it's like, especially for how...
So do you think it's risky to release it without being able to tour and promote it?
For a band like us, I think it would be just suicide.
You think so?
I know people that have put records out in April, May, and June, and I personally feel terrible for them, because for certain bands, it's like that music, even their fans, it's like it's just, there's too much going on right now where...
But at the same time, people are starving for content, bro.
It can, and that's the thing, is
like nobody's putting out anything. So people are fucking losing their mind sitting at home because they have nothing to watch, nothing to listen to. Like the bands that have dropped shit, like Misery Signals, Protest the Hero, both dropped albums during the pandemic.
Yeah, Misery Signals record's awesome.
Fuck yeah, it is. And so is the Protest record. And it's all I'm listening to are those two records, because they're the only new bands that I'm into that, or sorry, only current bands that have put shit out that I'm into during this. You see what I'm saying? Like there's nothing else for me to listen to.
I totally agree with that, but also on the other side of the coin, those are both bands.
I was just like, going to say, you already put the qualifier there.
Misery Signals is people have been anticipating actually really both those records, and I know Protest the Hero and I like their music. I don't know them super well, but that record, hasn't it been quite a while since they put a record out?
I mean, they're no Coheed. Coheed's banging one out every year, it seems like. So
yeah, I just want to say it's been more than like 2 or 3 years.
It feels, I mean, fuck,
so
dude.
People were anticipating that, and they're at a different level than we are. I'm very realistic about where Reaping Asmodeia is at, and what we have and what we can do. And like if you asked Steve or Alex, they would say the same thing. Like I have never put so much of myself into a musical endeavor. And it's kind of like that with everything you do with any artist. If you're trying to, same thing, if you want to get better, you want to excel, you're always putting more into it. But this was different. This was a very long year and a half. It was everything that we possibly could have put into an album at this time, like with our capabilities and where we were at musically and how
so
we
now
wanted
you're just
to.
sitting on it.
So it'll be out in probably late March, early April. It's just like when you have labels involved.
So that's the album
and
you
everything
just recorded.
So
what are you going to do until then?
We recorded this throughout the end of 2019 and into the starting of this year.
And then COVID hit, which fucks everything.
Yeah.
So you're bumping the album release a year. And that's...
I mean, it wouldn't have been out either way, even if things would have went. It wouldn't have been out until August, September, probably at that point.
I think that's the perfect time to release an album. You release an album at the beginning of the school year, and you give kids a chance to listen to it all year. Dude, I'm telling you, man.
Suck it up for the summer touring.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are like, no, you release it at the end of the school year so they have all summer to listen to brand new music. And it's like, I
honestly don't know what as far as, other than not doing it around Christmas, I don't know when the optimal time is anymore.
Yeah,
so much has changed.
I don't think there's a right answer to it. I think it's just whatever you're gonna do.
It's pretty
just
much
be
a fucking free for all right now.
Yeah, especially
it doesn't.
Yeah, especially. I mean, we got to adapt. This industry has changed so much, dealing with the internet and how we market and shit. And that's why I'm so curious about this, because it's like, that's one of the reasons I'm so gung-ho about doing the podcast right now at the rate I'm doing it, is because
I think for what you're doing, it's like the perfect time.
And the amount I'm doing is calculated as well, because again, nobody else is putting out content right now.
Yeah.
Like, and when I mean nobody, I mean like movie studios, TV shows, fucking
people need that.
A lot of music's not
so
coming
I
out.
agree. I definitely do agree in that respect. It's just we're sitting on, like, I have a lot of music that, that I had written.
What about like doing
around-
something online, man? What about like fucking doing like a live stream thing? Like,
Well, and those are all things that we are trying to figure out right now, because we're in the middle of finishing up one of the music videos for the record. And like we're just there's a lot of planning behind everything we're doing. It's just, like this will be the first record that we've gotten to have pressed on vinyl, and just the way that we're kind of trying to recalculate how we're gonna work around this. And I think it's just, for us, this band is kind of just founded on like being a live band.
right?
It's like we're not the most proficient or the highest of skilled players, in the grand, just in general terms. It's really, our strong suit was always like live, because of it's just the three of us, the energy we have, and like just what we love to do still for our kind of music. It's, we typically are more energetic, I think, than most a lot of technical metal bands. I think that's the downfall of technical metal and death metal. Sometimes you'll get those bands that don't really move around a lot and stuff, and I think that's where we kind
That
of.
ain't you guys.
I mean, we try. It's tough because
You guys are, but because like I agree 100%. I don't want to cut you off, but I want to add to that, because most of the time when you get into the technical brutal metal bands, the best you get is like a standing still windmill headbang.
Yeah.
That's the best. And whether you're talking about the drummer, the guitar player, the bass player, the singer, whatever, that is not you guys. You guys do not fuck around. You guys push it full on as if you're in a fucking shitty punk band, and it's almost like you don't care if you can play your instruments well, but then you still do. You know what I mean? Because like that's like a
Can't
lot
say
of.
we don't try.
You know what I mean? though. You know what I mean though. Like
Yeah.
a lot of those punk bands, it's like that's kind of the point of punk. It's like it's more about the message you have to say than like the quality of your performance of your instrument. So they just go nuts and they're throwing their guitar around, missing chords and shit. And I'm not saying you guys are doing guitar spins 24/7, but
you need to fucking tell Alex he needs to be.
But you know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah,
like you guys don't stand there. All of you guys throw down.
It's just
hard.
There's such a aspect of rock and roll and punk rock and metal that it's the energy, and that's, for me, that's it's weird getting older. And I'll have the same, I feel like I'm going to always have that same feeling that I have inside me, where I have this angst. And I think I've heard plenty of other musicians say the same thing. It's like, it keeps you young, and you I'm sure you've heard the same thing, where
yeah, I feel it.
It's like, it's the energy. And that's, for me, the metal and this band, there is a big part of that where it's like, it's reliant. Like, I'm reliant on that release, and like that's that
There's
aggression.
something
It's like we joke around and we're goofy as. That's the thing, is that I might seem like I'm composed and serious and whatever, but I'm like the goofiest motherfucker in the world. But there's just points where when I'm on stage, it's like that aggression, and I think there's no other music that you're gonna get that from. Metal has that. And that's like, for me personally, that's an outlet, and it's a huge outlet where, I have my fitness, I have my drumming, playing live. That's where it, luckily Alex and Steve, they share that. Please. We share that same kind of mentality, where it's kind of like, if we're going to perform, if we're going to play, we got to kind of try to let loose. I mean, there's so much of it that's there, and it's organic and it's natural, because that's me and that's who I am. But
no,
obviously,
I can attest to this.
There's
dude.
always going to be an element where it's like, well,
I can attest to this though, because you guys are so fucking cool. As serious as you guys take your music, and as serious as you guys take your stage performance, you guys have never once gotten mad at me for walking up and sneaking up and smashing Alex's bass drop pedal. I do it every show I end up at, and I don't come to all your shows.
Boom, 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 boom.
No, I never do it obnoxious. I know better than that. I wait.
Come on, no.
And
Alex does it like that sometimes. Sometimes you
he's
gotta.
telling it. Doom.
Well, you guys were talking about that, and it's like sometimes if the system is just top notch, it's like, and you can feel it on stage, he would just let loose. I'd be like, damn, dude, you're getting a little.
I love it, dude.
Silly tonight.
And I used to do it to Rich Zazada when he was playing with any of his bands, whether it was Buried by Hope, Skywind, fucking
pads,
I'd fucking walk up behind him. I'd sneak up on the stage sometimes. Like I'd always find a path, and then I'd fucking walk up, and like it's this fun thing that I have with other musicians on the scene where they let me come up, and whether I'm on stage or not. The coolest musicians in the scene, we fuck with each other while the other guys are on stage. Another one we do to each other. Oh. I don't think I've pulled this with you because you're usually not
surrounded
in a position.
By a death trap.
Well, and it's like, I don't think I've ever seen you play at like the Rock where I have easy access to sneak behind you, you know, and like some of the stages you played on where I have seen you, like there's not an easy path for me to sneak up. But sometimes I'll sneak up and like walk up to Alex won't fall for it, but I get everybody else and I'll walk up, you know, and how they got their foot on the monitor and shit and they're jamming, and I walk up and just put the keychain right on their shoe, and they're like, fuck. and then mid set they're playing and they bend over and I get to sock them right in the arm, and then they just go about their day, and I just walk back to the back of the room again.
Well, see you later.
I mean, some people get annoyed by it, not the people I do it to. Like I've had people like tell me like, dude, it's really fucking annoying how like every show you show up at, you got to like go up on stage and fuck with one of the band members. And it's like, those are my friends. Like you think it's this big serious thing. We're up here living our dream. And I want to segue into that. We've been running for 2 hours. How much longer do you want to go, dude? I'm having a blast.
Yeah. No, me too. Yeah,
so here's one thing I want to touch base with you.
Oh.
I want to get your take on this. We both love music. Like it is who we are. It's ingrained in our DNA. Like I am a musician first, right? I am everything else second. And definitely like me as a podcaster is way down the line. Like it's not, which one do you want? I'll open one of these.
Dealer's choice. This was really good.
That one?
Is this what what did I have?
I have no idea. I already threw it away. Did you do the Imperial or the coffee? Or did you do the regular pumpkin?
I think I just did the...
If you did the regular pumpkin, that's, I think, this Night Owl one. That's this one.
This was actually really good.
You want to try another one?
Yeah.
There's a coffee one and an Imperial one. No, coffee, Imperial. Imperial is like double the ingredients.
Hit me with the coffee.
The coffee one?
Yep.
It doesn't really taste that much like coffee, but it's a little... it's got a little bit of an earthier... It's got like a little bit of an earthier vibe. So we both love music. It is who we are, right? Like, it's funny because I was thinking about this last night. Like, me as a podcaster, like how I identify, like I don't identify with this podcast. This isn't who I am. This is something I do, right? I enjoy doing this a lot. And I think it could be really cool for our
Seems
scene
like it.
If this could be something that everyone's a part of. I think it could be really good for our scene and for our industry here.
Well, other than Greg, you know, Ritual Madness. Like,
is he even doing that anymore?
He hasn't for a while. And I mean, God, he's a fucking great dude. I love Greg.
He's supposed to be in the podcast soon.
I love you.
I got him scheduled. I love you too, man. And he's a huge part of the reason I'm doing this.
He's just a good dude. But he was really, like Brad, my really close friend, Brad Gunnarsson, he has a podcast that he does leisurely. But really, Greg Chilton's like the only one that I can think of that, because I mean, dude, he did like 100 and some, maybe 200.
He did a lot.
He did a lot. I don't know. He did a lot, but he kept it going consistently.
He's almost more important to the music industry and scene here because his is 100% music centric. They play the musicians' music every time. Like they really dive into the music. This is more of like a Rogan style. I'm just not Rogan. I'm not a comedian. I don't have a plethora of comedians to come on. It's music centric, but it's that format. So it's not always a musician. I mean, I have buddies on that don't do anything creative. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different thing. But I like this idea because the point of it is that Greg's podcast is arguably more important for the music side of thing because of everything I just mentioned. The reason this I think could be cool is because this allows people to get to know you and get interested in you, because that's what I'm interested in. That's why I'm doing this. Is I like having these long form conversations completely uninterrupted. Yeah, I mean, like, how rare is this? You know what I mean?
I was really stoked because Alex had mentioned he was doing this, and then he was like, "Yeah, I think he wants to have you on." I'm like, "Absolutely!" And,
fuck yeah.
This
is not a new idea either. So to like not to hit rewind, but to keep it in context, Greg, with the Ritual Madness, that Greg was actually my first guest on the original version of my podcast.
Oh, wow.
Which was audio only. I did like 8 episodes. I had them all in the can. And then trashed it. I was like, it's all the guests were great, but I got a lot to work on. And I just then a bunch of shit happened. Anyways, he's supposed to be on the podcast coming up here pretty soon. We had to reschedule. He's going to be on in a few weeks, but he's a big reason I'm doing this is because it's like, man, if we can get a few legitimate podcasts, credible podcasts in this region, like, man, this is the future is what I'm getting at. And it can do a lot for our industry as a community. Your timing,
I think, is really good. And just the fact that, I mean, and maybe I'm not a huge podcaster, but I can't think of, a bunch of local podcasts off the top of my head. They're obviously out there, but yeah, I think it's definitely cool that you're doing it.
I think it could be helpful to us in the long run. Absolutely. Whether it's
not going to hurt,
whether it just helps us build a tighter community, where we can fucking whatever, or it helps us build a better fan base in the long run. I mean, I'm just starting this thing, right? Like, barely anybody actually watches this thing. For the people that do, thank you for supporting, by the way. But that's not where I'm going with it. Where I'm going with it is like, we're still in the infancy stage. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm so grateful for anybody willing to do this right now. Because in the real world, like, I mean, fuck, man, you could easily go play in front of 1,000 people. It's going to take 6 months before 1,000 people watch this episode. You know what I mean? Because we're so new. Someday, though, we'll get 1,000 views overnight. But it's going to take time. It's going to take a long time. We're going to have to build that. And it's gonna take patience, but I think it could be really cool because, again, where I started with this is this format allows for 2 things. It allows for us to connect, right? It allows for you to, because we're so fucking busy, right? You're on the road, right? You don't get to have all these type of conversations uninterrupted for fucking 2-3 hours. Like, you've checked your phone time a couple times. I've seen you just see what time it is.
Yeah, just to see what time
I've checked my phone a couple times just to see how the feed's going. Mm-hmm. But there's no distractions. There's nobody walking up. There's nobody calling us.
I think that's...
To get into this is rare.
Yeah.
Now.
And, I mean, I definitely personally tried to... There's a lot of times where I just ignore my phone. And there's, when I come home for the day or the night, from whatever I'm doing, and when me and Caitlin are, how's your day, or how'd your day go? And, just like asking each other stuff about how each other's days went. It's like, I definitely am way more conscious of just wanting to just see how she's been for the day. And Caitlin's my girlfriend. For some reason, I've grown to not like that term. It's like we're not married.
I know what you mean, though.
You know what I mean?
I know.
My thing is I'll be like,
it's like
my lady.
Well, when you hear like a 50-year-old woman be like, "Oh, that's my boyfriend," it's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
it doesn't sound right. It sounds like
we're talking about that, and it's like
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's like we're not married, but we've been together forever, and but yeah, like I think it's something that everyone needs to probably think about is, because like even for me, it's just like I turn my phone on airplane mode when I'm at the studio or if I'm working on stuff, especially now more so when I'm going to the gym, I turn my phone on airplane mode. It's
I
just,
think
like,
if people can do that regularly, I think that will vastly improve the mental health of everyone. Turn your fucking phone on airplane mode while you're doing shit, and then check it in between activities.
Just you have one less distraction, and that's
Dude,
all.
For real though,
if you don't want to like get more, and that's, I would tell anybody that if you're looking to get more out of your life and what, you know, the things you're doing, it's like, put your phone down. Put your phone away for a few minutes.
It's interesting you say that, because something's just been eating me alive the last week, and I finally like really.
Is that Chinese food you ate?
Nah, man. Like I felt like I was in a funk for about a week, where I was like slightly out of sync with my friends, my wife, the world. Just I felt like this very minimalist friction in every conversation. And I originally, for like about a week, I thought, well, fuck, man, everybody's weird. Like everybody's a little hostile. And then I did a podcast with two buddies. It ended up, we had a crash, which is why I revamped everything and why we're testing this new setup. But we were kind of like getting heated in this podcast, right? And so it never went up because it was unusable. But I remember I was like, I just don't understand why you guys are getting so hostile. And they both were like, dude, you're the one who's hostile right now. And I was like, really?
Well, if you're angsty.
Right. But I wasn't perceiving it as like, oh, I'm out of sync. It was like everyone else is fucking. You're right.
Well, isn't that, I think that's natural.
Sure. But then
something's wrong. It's something else. It's somebody else.
Right. So yesterday I kind of have like, not a breakdown, but like I can feel it building throughout the day. And I'm like, I acknowledged, I even said it out loud, like, I'm about to fucking snap. Like, I am officially not right in the head or my body. Something's fucked.
Sounds like you got to work out.
That's
fitness routine.
That's definitely part of it.
Or you need to play some drums.
That's definitely part of it. All of those things are definitely true. Can't argue with any of that. But as what I realized was the source of the frustration, the source of my stress was time. There's so many things I want to do. There's so many things I want to do with my life, and there's so many things I want to do with my day, that how I spend my time, I always feel like I should be doing something else. So like maybe I'm stressed out and I need to relax. So I try to like watch a movie or play some video games and just decompress. But then I get this overriding guilt because there's shit I need to be doing. Right. But then when I'm doing all this shit,
you would hate to be in my head.
You see what I'm getting at though? Like it's this constant battle of like, I know because it's basically just a glorified way for me to explain, like, I'm coming to grips with the fact, like, I'm just starting to deal with my own mortality. Like, I know I'm 35 now, and for all intents and purposes, I'm about halfway through my actual life, right? I'm probably not going to get to 90, right? Just assuming most people don't. You see what I'm getting at? So it's like, fuck, man, I'm 35. I'm trying to do this podcast. I'm trying to fucking remodel my house. I have this insane amount of pride. It's not arrogance, but pride. I have to do this myself. So even if we had all this fucking money still in the bank to pay somebody else to do all this remodeling, like, I have to do it. Even if I get buddies to come over and shit, I'm not paying somebody else to do it because it's an old house. I want to know it's done right. I also take a tremendous amount of pride knowing, like, that old blue collar working with my hands. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So like I have to do that.
And
then I'm writing this music, the podcast. I want to make sure that I still have a healthy relationship with my wife. And then it's a lot to balance, and it's like time prioritization. And so basically, to wrap this whole long-winded spiel up, is I ended up basically coming to the conclusion of what we just talked about, which is like less social media, like focus more on promoting the podcast and promoting the music, and less reading comments, less getting involved in those discussions because there's negativity there. Designate certain times where I check my email, where I check my phone, where I return phone calls, because the constant chaos of trying to do everything at once every time. Oh, I have an hour. Let me go try to do this. Oh, I have 15 minutes. Let me try to do this. It literally started stressing me out to the point.
You really don't get anything out of it at that point.
And I was still getting a lot done, but I wasn't like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like I said, I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's something
the stuff that you're talking about is, I mean, everyone experiences that kind of stuff, and like the realization that as much as, we will all want to think that we're immortal, I mean, that's the only common denominator we have is death.
There's something, though, that changes in your mid-30s, though, because, like, 30 and earlier, dying, you only think about dying when you like flirt with death, right? You do something crazy and either you get an adrenaline rush or you get the shit scared out of you and you're like, I'm never fucking doing that again. But you don't really, every day, you're not like, not even every week or every month or whenever you're never going, okay, like, life's short, time is precious.
What do I have to show?
Right. Or life is short, time is precious. Like, what's the most effective way I can spend my time today? When I say nobody, I'm painting with a broad brush here, is what I mean by is the vast majority of us don't think like that. If you already think like that at 15, 19, 25, 30, you're probably ahead of the game. You're probably more productive. You see what I'm getting at? Because like most of us are fucking reckless and fly by the seat of our pants, and like pre-30, I'm saying. And then when you do find success, it's almost luck. It's almost just like fearlessness that got you there. But then at some point in time, because remember being 18 and you'd jump off the bridge into the river, no problem, right? Well, now at fucking 35, you're like, fuck, man, that's a fucking long way to fall, dude. Like, how do I know there's no rocks down there? What if I broke a finger? What if I broke my arm? What if I broke my leg? Like, boom, there's no more drumming, there's no more guitar.
Changes your perception.
But it you know what I'm saying though? Because you're like, oh, then I can't do this, then I can't. So you start prioritizing how you want to spend that time, and like you start thinking about things vastly differently. And for me, a huge part of that was getting married. It's not just 35. I've been married now for 2 years. It'll be 3 years. Yeah, about 2.5 years. And like even my definition of self is changing, because it used to be just me.
That's good.
So how I handled those stresses, how I handled those problems, how I handled that time, how I prioritized that time, that is being reprioritized now, because it's not just me and my dog. Where like, fuck, man, if shit really just hit the fan, we could hop in our car and fucking drive to Texas and start a new life. That shit ain't happening. I own a home now. I got a wife. We're starting a family. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many other responsibilities
different stressors that,
Yeah, and dude, just the lack of time was stressing me out, because I'm trying to do so much, and there's only so many hours in the day, and you still have to intentionally plan to do the old cliche, which is stop and smell the roses. Like, and just like when I'm sitting there trying to relax and then shit's going on in the back of my head, like, dude, this is what you should be doing right now. This is what you could be doing right now.
Well, and that's part of that is
you see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and it tortures me.
And it tortures me.
Totally reciprocate those feelings about stuff, because that's just kind of, I'd like to think that a lot of my outlook on life and a lot of my work ethic is a healthy thing, but at the same time, as I've gotten older, I've understood that part of my problem is that I this is, I suppose, getting like kind of personal. I mean,
come on, dude. I just fucking laid it off.
Yeah, no. Well, I don't. I could care less. Like, if anyone thinks whatever. But I mean, I think it's something that everyone deals with, and a lot of people just don't want to talk about it. But your clock is running, and for me, my problem is that it's always been there, and it's always been there to a certain degree. Like, your time is running out. What have you done? Have you done the things that you want? Have you given everything that you could have? And I mean, it's all relevant to some of the stuff we've talked about. It's just that definitely is why I am the person that I am, because I don't ever want to look back on my last breath thinking, I wish I would have put more effort into this, or I wish I would have done. I at least want to know that I tried and my head was in the right space, like where at least I thought that I gave everything that I could, for this or that, music, my family.
Do you have any regrets?
I don't think I really do. I mean,
See,
I
that's
think
that's what I thought you were going to say, and it's because of that work ethic. It's because of that drive.
It's like part of me wanted to say yes, but that's only because it makes me think back to stuff I wish I could have done more. The same thing. It kind of transcends into the same thing where it's like I really don't. I think that everything does happen for a reason to a degree. I don't think that fate in any manner is just absolute. I think you're led into a certain path, and I really am a firm believer that you can do anything you want to. You can achieve whatever you want, but it's really if you're going to sacrifice and if you're going to dissect your brain enough to like really hone in and I don't remember which one of your podcasts, but you talked about it. It's like you had your podcast, you have music, you have this, and it's like, okay, well, if I don't focus on one of these things, it's like I know that I can't do what I want to do with all three. So it's like
Correct.
I gotta figure, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
if you have enough patience to like dedicate the time and the energy to something that you want, something's gonna come out of it.
Yep.
And I'm saying that to myself because I'm nowhere near where I want to be.
Yep.
And I'm not sitting where I want to be. So how am I going to change that? And that's been like, me personally, it's been months of like, what am I doing? I'm not doing this. I said I was going to do that, but I'm working very diligently towards, all these goals and aspirations that I have.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that like, I think that everyone has that clock.
Right.
My clock is running out. Or,
Yeah, it's just a matter of when you become conscious of it and when it starts eating at you. Really,
yeah, it shouldn't plague you. It should be there, and it should be, because that's like
this thing we're talking about is literally the same thing that causes men to have a midlife crisis in their 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like whether it's 50, 55, 60, whenever it happens for the hypothetical dude we're talking about, like this is what it is they're like, fuck man, I've spent all this time working all this fuck. Now here's where I want to tie it back to here's the point is we are lucky. We love music. We love it. It's in our soul. It's who we are. We got trailed off, but like I said, when it comes to this podcast, I don't identify with this. I love doing this, but this isn't who I am. This is just something I like doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday I'll fall in love with it like I do music. I don't know. I'll leave the future open for it. But I realized how much I appreciate the fact, because not every person who loves music the way we do, and it's part of their soul, makes music. Not everybody who feels like us has the ability to do it. So not only were we blessed, if you're a spiritual person, with this thing called music, like with technology and the ability to like deliver it and discover it and listen on headphones cranked up and fucking monitors and go to live shows and feel the fucking everything hit you in your chest. You can literally feel the music, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have the ability to create that same thing for other people. That is rare, that is fleeting, and we need to appreciate that. I'm not saying you don't. I'm speaking to anybody who may have forgotten how lucky we are to do this, because this is not a new thought I've had. It's just a refound appreciation for it. Because like, dude, I've been telling motherfuckers like, listen, man, when you go out there, and this ties back to, I think, part of the reason why you guys push it on stage, why I push it on stage. I've always been known as a very, very entertaining performer in music. Whether you liked my style or not, I was obnoxious. I got a little flamboyant, but it was entertaining, right? Like, I appreciate the fact that not only do I love this music as much as the people in the crowd, I get to make it and we're sharing something special, but most of all, they paid to be there that night. And it is so difficult to even start a local band, get a plethora of songs together, make it on stage, and perform one show. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say the majority of bands don't even get to that stage, let alone become good and then start building a real crowd. That's another percentage that doesn't even get that far. And then all of a sudden you play to 1,000 people, 1,500 people. That's another group of bands that never make it to that level. Then you get signed. You start going on tour. So even though you're playing to maybe smaller crowds than you do locally, you're still on tour spreading your art across the country. That's an even smaller segment that makes it to that level. And every single time you get on stage could be your last. So all I remember from being a performer is when I'm up there and I start getting a little exhausted, and this probably comes into your care of your body, because as a drummer, we're like athletes. Like, we are way more in shape than anyone else in the band, period. Let's not even fucking front about it.
Usually, not all the time. I know some guys that are amazing drummers that are not.
I know some portly fellows, but I got to tell you, dude, they're fucking, their quick twitch is still, they got muscle density, they got stamina for days. Like, don't fight a drummer. Like, if you're going to fight someone in a band, stay away from the drummer. Like, that's not the guy in the band you want to fight. Maybe fight the bass player. I would
usually agree.
Fight the bass player.
Fight the bass player.
That's the ever running music joke. Always blame the bass player. It's always the bass player. But for real though, like, every time we go up, Dan, could be our last time. So every time I started getting tired, specifically on drums or even as a singer, whatever, like, the next time I hit the snare drum could be the last. And I don't want to get too heavy or dramatic, but literally guys like Dimebag died on stage. That was the last time they got to do it. I hope he understood and still appreciated what a privilege it was to not only be on stage, but have the ability to be playing his own music in front of people that paid to see it. You understand? I know that's a lot. I just ranted for a while.
I completely agree.
But this is a big deal to me, and I think a lot of guys don't appreciate it.
I don't.
They say they love it, but they don't appreciate it. Does that make sense? And there's certain guys...
I think they do, but it's just the music. There's different levels. I don't know what those levels are, but there's different levels of I'm a music lover. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's plenty of people that I know that it's just like, man, they love listening to music and they love going to shows. You know, and I have close friends that are that way. That they're always listening to something. They're listening to a new band, whatever. But
my friends Paul and Lisa are that couple. Like, they are true music lovers.
They're not the same as like me or you. Like, where
I don't know. I think they are. They just don't make it because, like, they appreciate music almost more than I do in some respects, because, like, they just love.
I guess I don't want to down credit anyone.
They love all music. Where, like, there could be a really fucking good band, and I don't want to call any bands out because I don't want to make it seem like I'm talking shit about anybody's favorite band, but, like, there's a hypothetical band that everyone loves. I can't fucking stand them because, yes, it's in my soul and it's who I am, but they annoy me. Whereas somebody who would be like, well, then you don't really love music, because, like, if you really loved music the way I do as a fan, like, you just appreciate all of it, because it's like,
no, it goes back to perspective.
Yeah, I can't say
everything's subjective, and I don't want to discredit. I think there's different levels of passion.
Sure.
And I think that when you're an artist, if you're a passionate artist, it's different than someone that's a listener.
Are you getting at, like, the idea of, like, what we sacrifice to make it happen? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Artists are just fucking weird. You know? Even
we're all super fucked up.
Well, yeah. And it doesn't matter how composed you are. Like, you know, some people are more composed to each other.
That's what I was just going to say. Some of us just hold it together better than others.
Yeah, and that's and I think you talked about that too on one of your podcasts, where artists are just very strange people.
Mm-hmm.
Some are stranger than others. I'd like to think I'm not like socially inept or like, a recluse. Or
Well, and it's weird because
actually the complete opposite.
I know what you're saying though, because some of the weirdest, most awkward people are the most prolific musicians, but that doesn't mean like just because you're like cool and fun to hang out with and an eloquent speaker doesn't mean you're also not an incredible musician. Like those things don't go hand in hand by any means, but they also don't correlate whatsoever. It's a weird thing musician
that's confusing as hell.
It makes sense though, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like some of the most prolific musicians are super fucking weird and awkward and like introverted, and they're like weirded out by people. And
I feel like more are than aren't a lot of times. I mean,
I you're probably right. You're probably right.
I think you usually hear more. You don't usually hear like, man, that guy's a great artist and super rad dude and not weird at all. It's like, I mean, you gotta have a bit of weirdness if you're creating.
Usually
something.
they get described as dicks or divas or you know what I mean.
And that's a whole other thing. I mean, I think that being an artist at any level, you catch people and because you have varying degrees of brain activity that a regular person I think doesn't have, and I don't know, maybe you caught that person. I guess like touring and stuff, it's like, I mean, I've personally been involved in plenty of situations where it's like I met somebody and it's like, man, that dude's a fucking piece of shit, seemed like, or and even if that
was that guy,
even if that person might have been legitimately, like I usually give, especially now, I give them the benefit of the doubt. It's like maybe they had a bad day.
I guarantee you though, you didn't like me when we first met, because
I was gonna ask you about that. You said that.
I rubbed all you guys the wrong way, and I know this because I heard this from other people.
I didn't. The thing
I annoyed all of you, and it's okay because I deserved it.
But I don't. It's so weird because, like, I knew Jeremy, and I knew, like, when you were with Dying Euphoria and everything, I didn't know you, and like I had gotten out of that kind of scene so much.
Oh, really?
Like I really.
I was so insecure though. Like I talked about this with Greg on my very, very first podcast. Like I was convinced he hated me, right? And he took that the wrong way on the first podcast because he was like, I got that a lot because I'm this big guy. I'm in a death metal band. And I was like, no, dude, this has nothing to do with you. It was because I was in a new metal band and I was super like flamboyant and effeminate on stage because I didn't give a fuck at all, right? So I was all the metal guys, when you were all on stage, you guys were like serious and shit. I can't take myself that serious. I'm too skinny. I'm not tough. Like, I mean, I am tough, but I don't look tough, right? I don't have tattoos, which I thought was interesting because I never noticed you don't have any tattoos.
I was going to say, I'm skinny. I don't have any fucking tattoos. I was going to
ask, but you're kind of jacked, dude. Like, and you play with your shirt off and like you got a good body and shit. Like I was anorexically skinny my whole life.
I haven't played with my shirt off in a long time.
And now I'm skinny fat. Right. So now I'm like still thin. People don't look at me and respect me. But when I take my shirt off, like I don't have a nice chest. Like I got abs and shit, but like I'm skinny fat. Right. Like there's nothing flattering about this. So I never tried to be intentionally serious. Like I was a vocalist. So when I was doing my screaming, that looked really intense because that's just how it happens. Right. But I couldn't be the badass metal vocalist on stage. It just wasn't a part of that thing. And so I developed... That's not
what you wanted, though. That's not who you were then.
Right. And it developed this insecurity that I was convinced none of the other metal bands liked me, partially because I heard some stuff, but also because none of you guys would come talk to me. Like nobody would come up and say I had a good set. I get off the stage at the Triple Rock with bands like yours and ATB. Not once did anybody ever come up to me in that scene and be like, dude, you're really fucking good. Like I had heard every other show except Wellner. One time Wellner came up to me in the bathroom and he goes, dude, you have a very, very powerful voice. And I was like, oh, that's fucking flattering coming from that guy.
Like I said, with playing, like, I only had seen you perform so many times, and I don't.
Well, we'd play together when I was in Solace.
Yeah.
When I was in Solace and Ashes with Pat, and then we played together when we were in Dying Euphoria.
Yep.
But
I mean, that was like once, and I think
true.
And I saw, because I mean, I saw when Pat filled in
for Dying Euphoria.
Yeah, I was at.
We did a bunch of those shows. The best one was that Head Charge show.
I was so out.
Were you at that Head Charge show?
That was the one at the Rock.
Yeah, the sold out one. Yeah, that Pat played. And I crowd surfed.
Because wasn't that like their last show before they broke up then for a chunk
I think
of
it
time?
was, yeah, dude. And I fucking crowd surfed. That was like one of the greatest moments of my life.
Yeah, that was a great
show. I crowd surfed while I sang my first verse. I will find that video. That video does exist online, and it's grainy because it's an old VHS.
That was a really cool show.
That was that and winning the state championship in Little League are two of the greatest days of my life. Like straight up, you could write an entire movie that ends on those two moments. You know, like you could write it's Sandlot Part 2. You know what I mean? Like boom, that's what that felt like. It was like a real life living in a movie. And then same thing with that show. It was like I came so far, and like it wasn't just that we got to play with another band that sold out the show. Like we played direct support, and the people in the front row knew our music. They knew my lyrics. They were singing back to me lyrics I wrote in my basement. That shit
I remember
gave me goosebumps.
Stage left, like, you know, right by the front there for pretty much your whole set. Like I
that was one of the best shows we ever did.
It was a good show.
We really actually did well. That was an incredible show.
Yeah.
That was an incredible show. It definitely wasn't perfect because I've heard it. I've watched those videos. there's a lot wrong with my performances, but
yeah, like
I enjoyed it so much, man. I miss it, dude.
Well,
I miss it so much, dude. That's the biggest travesty of COVID,
man, at
brother.
this point, I fucking miss it.
Dude, I'm telling you.
I've never, since I started playing music, I haven't ever gone a year. And I played one show this year. That's never happened.
Yeah, I have. And it's horrible.
There's that's part of why I've been going through this, you know, not soul searching or any bullshit like that, but, you know, more bouts of self-reflection and self-awareness. Because it's like I have such a big part of me is just kind of missing, because I am a live musician. You know, it's like I like playing music, I like practicing, I like doing all those things, and you know, I want to do all these things, but like playing shows and stuff, it's the energy.
Like if you're a true athlete, you love everything about your sport.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that can replace game day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's exactly like being a musician. Like that's how I knew like I was going to be okay in music. Because when I was a kid, I was really into sports, and I remember having this conversation with my mom. I was like, I really know I'm supposed to play baseball or football or something, because like I love going to practice. I love being a part of the drills and like working on them. I love everything about it. I love the games. I love everything. Same thing with music. I love going to rehearsal. I love writing the music. I love being in the studio. I love promoting the album. I love like having the conversations about booking shows and tours. Like nothing is better than the shows, but I also love all the other shit that most people can't stand. Like something about the music industry bothers most people. Like, oh, fucking, I love everything about being in a band except recording albums. You hear that a lot. Like I can't fucking stand being in the studio. It's the worst part. You hear that on DVDs from famous bands back in the day. Like, man, I love everything about this fucking blah, 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 blah. But man, I got to tell you, every time in the studio, I swear to God, by the end of the time we're getting ready to release the record, we're almost broken up. And it's like, I get it.
It happens with a lot of bands.
I get it. And I've said on the podcast many times, you can't create fire without a little friction. So like if you have a band where you never argue and you never fight, find me one of those bands that actually creates prolific music. Any band ever in any genre, a collaboration, a real band, not a solo artist, a real band that actually does it with a group, you will hear stories about them fighting, sometimes fist fights, like being in a fist fight with a band member.
I've personally never been in that situation. I've been but there's got to be. Well, it's no different.
It's not as uncommon as you'd think, is what I'm saying. It just doesn't always make the press. It
goes back to the same thing with like relationships, because that's all a band is. And if you don't, if you have a relationship,
it's like being married to 4 other dudes.
Well, yeah,
it really is. It's like being married to 4 other dudes.
If you're not quarreling at all, like in a healthy manner, like being able to at least navigate around like fights and stuff, then you should be concerned. Then something's wrong. Right. I mean, yeah, it's like, because I mean, most people, it's like when you're dating and whatever, if you're in a situation where you have one person that's that passive, I mean, that's.
What do they
some
say?
People, like, that's just, I couldn't understand that. There's got to be some kind of, like you said, some friction.
What's that old phrase? The people you love the most see the worst sides of you.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So your wife, your parents, your brother, your sister, whoever, right?
Well, that's because you're willing to be vulnerable.
Right, but it's weird that it's said that way. The people you love the most have seen the worst sides of you, right? Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It's not the people that love you the most. It's the people you love the most have seen the worst sides of you. Mm-hmm. Because you're willing to be vulnerable, but it's also because they've been with you through everything, and that's why you love them the most, is because they've seen the worst sides of you. Like, it sounds like this deep, prolific thing, but it's like, actually, it makes perfect sense. It's super simple.
Man, this is getting deep.
You know what I mean, though? And that's what our band members do, and when you get that friction, like, you got 2 choices. You either get frustrated and you're like, this isn't worth it and I want to move on to something easier, or you accept that person and the fight they're putting up, because you understand not only does it matter to them, but it matters to you that it matters to them.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be applied to your marriage, or this could be applied to the riff you guys are writing, right? Or Absolutely. This could be applied to your fucking your boss being hard on you, or you being fucking difficult and your manager's not understanding why you're being difficult. It's because it fucking matters to you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to put out shitty parts. I don't want to fucking be a shitty salesman. And like, I'm having some real fucking issues with what's going on right now, and it's affecting me. So how do we make this situation better? That analogy is exactly what a lot goes on when we're writing music. Like, dude, here's the thing, is I love this fucking song, but there's something about this transition that sucks. Now, I'm being super blunt the way I'm saying it now, and I have said that in the room with musicians. Like, I don't know what it is, and I don't know who's doing it. It could be me and my part that I'm executing, but this transition sucks. Like, everything about this song is awesome. This fucking sucks, and I don't know what it is, but we got to figure this shit out. And then when you hear the band member go, I think it's fine, you go, do you even give a fuck? You're laughing, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you know this sucks. Like, we all know this sucks. And I'm the one saying it right now, but there's only one dude saying it's fine. There's 5 of us in the room. One says it sucks. One says it's fine. The other 3 stay silent.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is the dynamics of being in a band.
To be awkward.
And it's not always the Dan or the Jared of the group. Sometimes it's the bass player who never says anything. And all of a sudden he's like, you guys, this shit ain't working.
We already talked about the bass player.
And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, this shit's weak. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. But being willing to like explore that with another band member and try to figure out how you're going to create, it's so much different than anything else. Like, it's so similar to being on a football team. It's so similar to working at a normal job, but it's also nothing like those things, because you're equals in a band.
Yeah.
Right. It's not And I'm saying in a
Not all
normal,
bands.
and I was just gonna say in a normal band, like there's bands where it's like it's my project, like we're writing my music, you guys are all hired guns, like a jobber, right? Like you don't get any say if you're a jobber. You show up, you play the parts, you fucking smile.
You get treated like shit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you smile.
Have you ever done a
like
jobber like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for
Yep,
you.
more than once.
Good for
Yep,
you.
and it sucked, and that's why I don't do it as my main drive of income anymore. I was like, I could
attest to that.
I would rather go make $22 an hour working at a metal shop or $25 an hour
attest to that.
than fucking. No, because some of these people again are already divas, and it's like, listen, dude,
Yeah,
you haven't made it. Like
Yeah.
I've played bigger shows than what we just played right now. Like you're really good and you have a lot of potential. But dude, I've been around and I don't have this conversation. This is what I'm thinking in my head. I'm like, but you ain't actually shit yet. You haven't actually done shit. Like you have something special, but you're just touring on a very low level national fucking bar tour. You ain't even in fucking clubs yet, bro. You're playing bars. Like you ain't actually shit. And I can only say that because I was that guy. I was that guy who played 500 people on a regular basis and thought we were the next big thing. And it's like, no, dude, no one even knows who you are yet. But it took years before you figure that out. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying is like being humble. I wasn't always humble. I was always cocky. I was always borderline arrogant. Me being humble only came through failure. It only came through being knocked down a peg. Literally.
Well, at least you found that, because I mean that's more than a lot of people can say.
Yeah, and
or at least you're.
No, you're right. No, you're right. There's a lot of people that don't.
Like
it just, I feel like it still came a little too late, like the time thing. You know, like fuck, if I would have realized this at 25, it'd be so much farther.
Well, but I mean, I could say the same shit about a
no
lot
regrets.
of things. Yeah, that's why I had said that. Where it's just that's a fine line, because there's always gonna be shit that you could have maybe dealt with a little bit differently, but I don't know. I still don't think it's good to look at stuff in a regretful manner like that. I don't think that's.
I mean, that's something I've been toying with too lately. Is like, yeah, don't regret, don't look in the past. You can't do anything about it. But we look to the past to see the mistakes and the patterns we made, so we don't repeat them in the future. Like if you don't observe the past, you're just a bull in a china shop.
But that's being self-aware.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. And part of that has to come down to having some regrets, because you have to be able to look behind and see the damage you've done and go, I don't want to do that again. I regret doing that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because if you don't regret anything, then why do you ever stop doing anything negative? You know what I mean?
That's true. That's all, you know.
I mean, this is just my current mind space. I'm not trying to preach you, bro. I'm not trying to act all fucking...
I mean, that's same thing. Perspective.
Yeah.
Like it's all perspective.
Yeah,
like,
for sure, man. For sure. It's a wild ride, dude.
Like, why did you think that because you say that you used to be a certain kind of person and you were way more cocky and you just looked at life in general and like what you were doing with certain things differently. It's like, why did you think that like me or like other people didn't care for you?
Well,
was that just?
I mean, people told me, you know,
really, that's so funny.
Like people told me that a lot of people didn't like me, you know.
Well, I mean, like,
and I also said and did a lot of fucked up things to where I was always just trying to be the party animal, fucking like say something crazy and hilarious, and it always came across wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm way too drunk, and when I get really drunk, I have this like Ron Burgundy condescending voice I kick into. Like when I'm drunk and partying, and it's literally just because I feel my voice straining. It's an old vocal thing. I feel my voice straining, so I start speaking from my diaphragm and projecting more. And then when I'm really drunk, I'm like fucking blah, blah, and I get into this tone.
Maybe you were just super drunk one time and you came up to me and you thought I was like pissed and I wasn't or something. Who knows?
I'm not going to put him out on blast, but a band member told me that like there was something about me that it was you, Eric Kais, and a couple dudes from that side of the scene. You guys just couldn't stand me. And whether it was true or not, it just added up because again, like like you guys, that whole side of the scene never, like, for example, let me put it this way. Wally from Skywind, rock band, prolific vocalist, like one of the best around, came up to me in the bathroom next to me in the pisser. I didn't even know he was there. And he was like, hey man, you do really good work. Like you're really fucking good, dude. And then I look and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. And I played it off. But if it would have been like anybody else, I would have probably been like, oh yeah, thanks, man. I mean, well, I could have done so much better, you know, and like went through the whole like spiel, right? But I turned and I seen who it was, and it's fucking Wally from Skywind.
And he's taking
and
a
I'm
piss.
like next to me, and I'm like, thanks, man. And I just couldn't say anything else. I was just so humbled by this. Like, wow, this is somebody that I know is great at what they do, complimenting me at what I do. And then same thing, Greg Moog one time. Like I talked with Greg, I'd hung out with Greg. He's been on the podcast a number of times. Now we're good buddies. But back then, I was a nobody to him. And we had played a couple shows together, but I was never worth the time of day. And then all of a sudden, we played this one random show. And same thing, like I walked up to the bar, I went to go grab a drink, and he was standing there talking to somebody, and I seen him, he's doing this thing, and I seen him turn and fucking out of the corner of my eye, and he slaps me on the shoulder and he goes, you do good work. And I was like, fucking thanks, man. And is what I'm saying is like, whether it was my perception or reality, there was guys like Sean Scott, you, Eric Keys, the entire ATB clan, that whole like death metal, almost hardcore side of the scene that like I was just never in that scene. I was never. It's a classic high school trope, right? Because I was an insecure lead singer who didn't really have an identity. Like it was probably more in here.
Well, yeah, especially with those kinds of people.
Reality. But then there was some seeded truth in it, and I probably took that seed and grew it into a forest.
Yeah, I think that in that scenario, it sounds like you had probably the perfect storm with stuff, because there's plenty like.
And I wasn't a very good person either,
people,
though.
Like, there's people that...
I didn't have very many redeeming qualities back then.
Well, Caitlin thought I looked like I was going to be a huge asshole when she first met me. You know, there's
That's why she wanted to tame the beast.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask her. Maybe she just wanted to. I don't know what the hell she wanted. She got
I mean,
more than she bargained
you are
for.
a beautiful man.
Well, thank you. But I don't.
And a slightly above average drummer.
What's that?
Kidding. I said you're a beautiful man and a slightly above average drummer. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's
you're awesome.
I'm better than the below average then.
No, you're awesome, dude. Come on.
But I don't know. It's all timing and perception with everything.
Hold on.
If you came up to
Let me press pause here. You know you're awesome, and here's how I can tell you know you're awesome. Because you've been in those fucking Minnesota drummer circles that you guys used to do, where
we still do it,
where you're sitting in a room with the best drummers around.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're actually hopefully
see, that's the thing.
Hopefully a handful of us are actually meeting up in about a week.
Here's the thing: I never have and never will be invited to that group. That's the difference between us. I'm not good enough to be in that group. There's no way I should be in that room of people having a conversation about drumming. If I were in that room, I would just probably listen because I have nothing to add to that conversation.
I don't believe that. I really don't.
There's no way I'm good enough to be in that room.
You need to get out of that headspace, man, because like I said,
dude,
you're missing out on a whole bunch of...
I tricked all of you.
A whole bunch of trinkets. I
tricked all... I would love to be in the room. I just don't deserve to be in that room. But the only reason I ever created a perception I should even be considered to be in that room is because I tricked you all by hiding what I'm not good at and playing metal drums in a rock band, which makes me sound way better than I am.
But going back to what you said, though, that's a huge part of being a good musician.
Dial it to 11 and then bring it back a couple notches.
It's, being able to show people something. Convince, it's like you need to convince people that you're somebody worth paying attention to.
I mean, that is the secret of most professional musicians is they one of the biggest differences between a band that you see selling out your biggest stadium in your town versus a band you see struggling to get 300 people to a local show at a local club in your town is, believe it or not, it's not actually talent.
It's not.
It's not. It's those guys at the top know what they're good at and they stay away from what they're not good at. The guys at the bottom are trying to show off. This is a way big generalization, but that's the common denominator. Is local guys, young amateurs are always trying to show off, and the guys at the top realize they're there to write hit songs that people like to listen to, and they don't try to do things on record or live that they can't pull off virtually flawlessly.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little improv, you get a little fuck up here and there on some, but for real though, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason Lars isn't playing insane double bass like he was on Master of Puppets anymore.
Yeah.
He can't execute it. I love that guy. I love that band. I mean, I understand he's kind of a prick, but he also is one of the best businessmen and songwriting drummers on the planet.
I will say, the people, I always laugh when I see people being like, if you ever thought Lars was a good drummer to begin with, it's like, I mean, like,
he was prolific.
Even if he had a weird style in the beginning, it's like, by the time Master of Puppets and Injustice for All, it's like, if you don't think like what he was doing was cool and like pretty amazing for the time,
it still sounds more modern and progressive than a lot of the music that comes out today.
Yeah, I don't ever understand that, people that say stuff like that. It's like, we all know that later on it could have been, it's his talent, might not have been what it was, but I don't know. Total side note, I suppose.
It's hard to stay at that level at 50 something years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People don't understand that band started in like 1977 or 78 or 79, and the first Metallica record came out in technically 1981, but their first major label release, Kill 'Em All, was 83. But they were a band 4, 5, 6 years before that, building something. And they were 20-something years old when they started that band. So you fast forward just to 1991, 95. Like, of course they're going to slow down. Wow. Like, nobody's doing the same thing they were doing when they were that, except James Brown. James Brown's the only one that never fucking stopped at all till he died.
Cocaine?
Something. All right, listen, man, we've been going 2 hours and 45 minutes. Let's start wrapping this up, dude.
Yeah.
What's the future of Dan Koppy during COVID? Reaping. What the fuck's going on, man? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? The scene is dying. Venues are closing left and right. How are we gonna get out of this, dude?
Well, so I don't know. Support any of your artists.
Are we gonna start doing drive-in shows? Drive-in theater shows? Everybody sits in their cars.
I just hope we don't have to do that.
Because it's like I wouldn't mind it.
I mean,
you just do an outdoor concert and everyone sits in their pickup truck.
That would be a great option either way. But I mean, just the idea. I just really hope that by early next year, February, March, April, May. So I really hope that people.
So are you reserving
where things are at? I hope that we can be doing that.
So are you reserving that this shit ain't lightening up over the winter?
I mean, it's gonna have to shift at some point, and I don't want to think that we're gonna be restricted to going to things like that. 6 months from now. I just don't even want to think about that. So
what are you gonna do? See, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but this is something I think most bands aren't appreciating. What is the plan to stay other than and I'm not saying my literal podcast, because you can come on podcasts and do shit like that, but other than something like this, how do you stay relevant during a COVID era as a musician?
Well, I mean, really, yeah, it's like content's going to be key for anything, and we're unfortunately like we're methodically trying to plan out what we're doing. That's why it's like it sucks because our record cycle from our previous record, it's so, we're so far out now. It's 2.5, 3 years since our last.
Are you guys
record.
going to try to write another record while this one's waiting?
So the plan always was for us to have an EP that was going to come out like 7 to 12 months out from our release, and that is going to happen, and that's why
maybe you just turn that into a full LP now.
No, because I have way more than enough material. Like we have specifically what is going to be an EP that's going to come out, like I said, somewhere in between the 6 to 12 month range, probably 9, 10, 11 months after our record comes out. Hopefully that's going to be in the end of March, into April sometime. We don't have a hard date yet, but so that definitely is going to happen. And luckily I have a ton of stuff that I was writing over this whole pandemic thing, and I had stuff that was left off of this last record. So like when you were asking before, it's just we didn't have like full songs that were completely done, like every element that we dropped off of the record. It's like things that don't make it past the pre-production side. We're writing, and this is what I have, and this is what I have. Those things don't like end up getting finished. You know how that goes. So
are you getting any help or direction from your label? On how to like navigate this COVID? Like, are they coming up with strategies and ideas?
I mean, they said right away that it's just not going to be a good idea to put out a record until next year.
Is that all they're giving you?
Well,
are they coming up with that? Because like I'm obsessed with this idea of you guys doing some sort of concert, some sort of performance, and online.
And that's we definitely have the options for the places that we were talking about doing something like that at. It's just figuring out how we're gonna do it, because we're not gonna just we're gonna set up our live rig and just do a practice. It's just. There's more.
You can try to do like lights and shit.
Yeah,
like,
there's just
like maybe
more.
Rent out a venue with no fans and set up cams.
Going back to the same thing I've said, more than once now. It's just if this album would have already been out, or if we would have been in the middle of the Impuritize record cycle, it's like things would be different, and we'd be doing different content. But it's like we just hit this weird spot where it's like we literally were getting ready to put this record out.
So you got some ideas. You guys are you have some plans. You obviously can't get into details.
Well, no, I mean the first of a handful of the music videos is almost it's 2/3 done.
All right.
We're actually shooting the majority of the rest of the B-roll footage on Sunday night.
What about
we're gonna do a band. We're gonna do another cover, the three of us. We haven't done one of those in quite a while.
What's up with that Footloose cover?
Most people don't even know about that Footloose cover.
That shit was badass.
But yeah,
that was one of my favorite things you guys ever fucking did.
The silliest thing out of all.
Dude,
of
it was awesome. It was the fucking dude.
It was fun.
It inspired me so hard. I'm doing a cover of "Let's Hear It for the Boy."
There you go.
Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah. And guess what? Me and Dalton are gonna come out with those pink Hello Kitty strats and bright pink fluffy fucking guitar straps. The one you get at Guitar Center that's like the troll hair, and it's neon pink. The whole strap is the fucking like the trolls. Yeah, the whole strap is that. And dude, we're gonna put EMGs in those motherfuckers. And it's gonna be the heaviest version of "Let's Hear It from the Boy" you ever heard. And I might have just lined up a legitimate celebrity vocalist to cover it. I can't drop his name, but I talked to him. He said he's down. He asked me to send him the track. And I was like, I'm not that far yet. I was like, I'm still working on it.
I didn't think you were going to say yes.
That's exactly what it was. It was like we happened to be in a conversation about something else. But no, he... I really can't give any details, but I will say he's not just like a local musician. He's an actual celebrity vocalist. I've known him for a while. He's a great human being, one of my favorite people. And I'm really excited to do that. But that only is happening because you guys did that Footloose cover. And it's so fucking... It was so badass. Please bring it back.
Well, I mean, there's been other silly things. I mean, we've talked about. But there's definitely going to be an EP that's going to be... Because we actually were talking about tracking it. We actually were talking about it recently again, like where we're going to track it. And I think... because we're actually going to record this EP that I'm talking about that would come out later on after this next record.
Okay.
We're going to track it at a cabin. We're going to do it all ourselves together. And we do all of our tracking, and all the engineering is done by Steve and all of us, but and there's some covers that we've talked about, and there's actually a few covers that will probably be on that EP that we will be doing. So
you ever thought about doing an entire cover album?
No, I mean there's a lot of songs we've talked about, but I think with the way we're gonna do, there's 2 EPs that basically we've talked about how we're gonna do them, and there is gonna be some cover songs. There's definitely gonna be some cover songs because there's a few songs we've been saying we're gonna do for a while, and yeah, it'll be cool.
What about you got any drum cover videos coming up? Because you've been pumping those out for years.
Yeah, and
we didn't even really get into that. I wanted to get into that a little deeper.
Yeah, like not to.
Next time. Because one of the things I want you and Alex to come on soon together.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you guys on.
That'd be awesome.
That's going to be fun.
There's more of that for sure.
We'll do a month or two.
The recording process with this album just took up a lot of time, and it slowed everything down. But there's a bunch of stuff I'm planning on, and like me and Alex and Steve actually I think we're going to be doing this other cover that we're going to be doing together.
Sick.
So yeah,
can you drop any hints as to what the cover is?
It's a Decapitated song.
Okay.
I don't. It's not that.
That's all you get, fuckers.
I mean, I guess if you listen, But yeah, we talked about this song, doing this song together for a while. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I'm super excited for you guys, man. You guys have been a huge inspiration for a long time for me, especially on the business side, because Alex and I have had a lot of deep conversations. Like, is what I've had in private, not even on the podcast, but I've talked to him about this. I was like, man, if you guys can do what you're doing with that style of music, if I can fucking figure out a way to do it as well as you're doing with something poppier and more cheesy like this, something more marketable, like we can still do this. Like the level of success you guys have had with, and this is no disrespect to your music. You understand what I'm saying. Your music is not marketable. Like you have a very niche.
Yeah,
exactly. Very niche market.
It's like metal in general is a niche market, and then you have technical metal.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even though I wouldn't say we're like this technical metal band, but you know what I mean.
I mean, you guys are. Yeah. Like you're definitely articulate. You're definitely articulate in your music. It's very complex. It's not basic bitch shit. I remember one time you got off stage and I was like, dude, I was like, you guys are fucking... This was when we started to become friends and shit, and I would jump up and help fucking Alex and you with your drums and shit, because that's the thing is I've been there. I know what it's like. It's like, no, dude, let these guys go hang out with their fucking fans and network and do all that kind of shit. I'll fucking pull Dan's drums off stage. I'll fucking pull out... You know what I'm talking about. I've done it for you a dozen times now. And it's just one of those funny things because it was like... I was like, man, you guys fucking crush it, man. And like, you make my music sound like pussy music. And I remember distinctly you were like, well, what we're doing is pretty cookie cutter. I mean, we're not exactly doing anything fucking mind blowing either. And I was like, fuck you, dude. It's intense. It's intense music. It is absolutely top notch.
It has fried my own brain. I don't even know what I'm talking about,
dude. And here's the thing, man, is what I'm getting at is you guys play in front of really respectable crowds, very respectable crowds. I know a lot of rock bands that would kill to play in front of the crowds I've seen you play in front of. Like, you're extremely well respected. You guys clearly have the work ethic. You have the drive. You have the musical talent, but there's something intangible there that's really hard to describe. And the only word I've ever been able to say is it's that it factor. It's that special, tangible thing. And if you guys are into heavy shit and for some reason you're watching this and you don't know who these guys are, Dan, tell them where they can check your music out. Tell them where they can follow you for your drum videos. If you're into drums, if you're
Reaping Asmodeia, anything, Spotify,
spell
iTunes.
it for them though, because
if you look up Reaping, it'll pop up.
Reaping, and then it's ASMOD and some other vowels after that.
Yeah, if you think it just sounds like Asmodeia, which is how everyone wants to say it, you'll figure it out. But it's Asmodeia.
Where can people follow you if they want to?
Instagram, Facebook, my Daniel Koppy.
Okay.
If you look up
just
my
very
last
simple.
name, Daniel Koppy _RA on Instagram. Like you'll find it.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll put those links in the bottom. I'll have you write them down, and I'll put them in the description.
Yep. YouTube, all that. My name, Reaping Asmodeia. Anything on there? There's tons of videos.
And honestly, if I tag this video properly, if you just finish this video, it'll probably pop up with something either Reaping or Dan himself. If you guys are interested in following me for some godforsaken reason, everything's Jared Singer Live, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Honestly, none of it's really worth following. I just promote the shows. But the most important thing is right now, if you're interested in the podcast, hit like, subscribe, make a nice fancy comment, or talk a bunch of shit about me, and hit the bell so you know when the next one comes up. And then the final question: when am I getting a t-shirt so I can wear it on the podcast?
We can do that. You should have told me to bring you something.
I told Alex he was supposed to give you one. Fucker. You dropped the ball, you son of a bitch. I love you, man.
This is on you, Alex.
This is on you, Alex. You had one job. You had one.
Shit.
I love you, Alex. All right. Shout out to everybody on the scene, man. We talked about a lot of things, dude. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yeah,
it was a huge honor,
me.
brother.
Shake
my hand, man.
I'll shake that hand.
This was a legitimate blast, dude. It's a huge honor because you and I have been friends for a while. Mutually through Alex, but like we never spent a ton of time together, so it was
this was great.
It's an honor because I really respect you as a drummer and a musician.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
It was really cool, man. It was really fun to have you. Let's do it. I'm gonna reach out to you guys. I want to have you guys on together in like a month, 2 months tops.
Yeah,
maybe we can time it with something you got coming out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That'd be fucking cool. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully the live stream went well. If not, the hard copy should be fine, and I'll have that uploaded soon. All right, guys. Have a good night.